Everything Mugeuk ever loved is already gone. His home, the Heavenly Demon Palace, lies in ashes. His father, the Cheonma, the strongest warrior of his generation, was cut down in the heart of his own fortress. And the man who did it, a swordsman called Mugi Hwa, walked out of that ruin without a single wound and then vanished like he had never existed at all. Mugeuk spent the rest of a long, bitter life as a broken old man, shoved around by everyone near him, chasing one impossible dream: to take it all back. Tonight he finally can. He sits in a quiet pavilion across from an old friend, an elder named Hyun, sharing a drink while they remember the decades that brought them here. 40 years ago, Mugeuk begged Hyun's clan for a forbidden ritual with a heavy name, the reversal of heavenly cycles. It demands 5 near-impossible things, and Hyun counts off what they bled to gather over the decades, from the thunder bell of the Wind River cult to the essence of a 10,000-year-old carp, and last the evil spirit of the demon cult, the one that cost him an arm and an eye. When the old man finally asks why, Mugeuk says it out loud. His revenge has a name: Mugi Hwa, the man who slaughtered every pillar of the murim and the Dark Alliance, down to the servants and the children. And the Cheonma he killed, Mugeuk says quietly, was my father. Hyun asks for only one thing in return: if this works, find my younger self and stop my marriage from ever happening. Then he begins the rite. For a heartbeat it seems to work, and then the old man goes rigid, his face twisting, and he accuses Mugeuk of betraying him. Panicking, Mugeuk strikes him down, then begs for forgiveness the instant it is done. That is when the world stops. Reality freezes and cracks apart into a cloud of butterflies, and a figure of pure golden light stands where the pavilion used to be. The Great One, none of it was real. The whole ordeal was a test, and Mugeuk has passed. The relics were never the true price of the ritual, the being tells him. The price was every sacrifice he made to gather them, and the last test was whether he could forgive the friend who seemed to turn on him at the very end. Then the Great One asks his single deepest regret. Mugeuk breaks. He screams that his whole life was never his to live, that others pushed him around until his hair went gray and he had nothing left, and the Great One grants his wish. Light swallows him. When it clears, Mugeuk is young again, dark hair, straight back, 2 good arms, standing in front of a roaring crowd with a sword in his hand. I came back to the past, he says, and he means every word, because up on a dais in front of him sits a red-robed figure he buried a lifetime ago. His father. Alive. He barely has time to breathe the word before a huge, orange-haired warrior levels a weapon at him and tells him to draw his sword. The tournament is about to begin. The demon gauntlet, and here's what makes him so dangerous now. Mugeuk has been thrown back decades into his own younger body, and he remembers everything. Every death, every betrayal, every enemy's face before they ever wrong him. He already knows how all of this ends, and he has decided that no one is going to find out just how much he knows or how strong he can truly become. The tournament is his father's doing. The Cheonma has declared that any member of the cult can fight for the right to be his heir, and the winner earns 2 prizes, a duel against one of his 2 sons and a single wish granted no matter who wins. The orange-haired man across from Mugeuk is Pyonghogu, 5th of the 7 disciples of the Cleaver Demon. Mugeuk knows this face. In his first life, this was the man who bribed his cook to lace his food with a scattering poison, so Mugeuk lost this exact duel, fell out of the succession race, and slid into the long decline that ruined him. Not this time. In front of the entire crowd, Mugeuk announces that he will fight without using a single drop of kai. The crowd loses its mind, chanting his name, and Pyongho, cornered by his own pride, agrees to hold his power back too, so they fight as ordinary men and Mugeuk toys with him. In the middle of it he asks, almost gently, was it this hand that passed the vial over? Then he breaks that exact hand, that exact arm, and beats Pyongho into the dirt, and there is the pattern that will define him. He wins, and he still hides how far above all of them he really stands. The Cheonma keeps his word and offers the wish. Everyone leans in, expecting a legendary weapon or a secret art. Instead, Mugeuk asks to go hunting with his father. That is all. An elder scoffs and calls him a hopeless fool for wasting the prize. They have no idea. To Mugeuk, one ordinary day with the father he watched die is worth more than any technique in the world. Alone afterward, he faces the real problem. Mugi Hwa cannot be hunted yet, not without waking him far too early. So Mugeuk settles on the only path that makes sense: grow stronger than him quietly and be ready when the storm comes. Then his bodyguard comes to congratulate him. Her name is Lee, short and broad and plain, with orange-brown hair in 2 buns. When Mugeuk looks at her, guilt hits him like a wave. Her body did not always look like this. It changed against her will, a side effect of a secret martial art called the Stonehide Shell. And in the life he still carries in his head, this woman threw herself in front of Mugi Hwa's blade to save him, and died so he could limp away alive. In that first life he took her for granted, grew cold after her body changed, and never once thanked her. Now he stares at her with something she has never seen on his face, and all she can do is ask, confused, "Why do you look at me like that, sir?" He decides, right there, that this time he will lift the curse of that technique and give her back what it took. He also settles the debt from the poisoning, not old cookmaster Lim, who tries to take the blame, but a junior cook drowning in gambling debt who took Pyong-ho-gu's coin to drug the food. Mugeuk cuts him down, clears the cookmaster, and then, perfectly calm, asks for chicken silk noodles for dinner. At dawn he and his father set out on the promised hunt, and Lee trailing along to guard and carry. In the forest the Cheonma tests him without warning, flicking a needle-sharp burst of kai at his face, and Mugeuk slips it on instinct. That reflex tells his father everything. The boy truly has mastered the sword of the skyward path, the bloodline's secret art, far earlier than he should have. Then the talk turns dark. Mugeuk mentions he learned to hunt from his older brother, and his father admits that he killed his own brother during his own fight for the throne, back when he was around Mugeuk's age. "I'm glad you did," Mugeuk says, and he means it. When he adds that things might end no differently between him and his own brother, his father does not flinch. He agrees, coldly, and calls Mugeuk out by name for throwing shade at a man who is not even in the room. The hunt turns into real training. High in the snow, the Cheonma teaches him to sense the world by pushing his kai out into fine threads on the wind, a skill he calls presence. Mugeuk practices with a single strand until he can pick out a tree, then a boar hidden far off, and drops it with one arrow. Over the fire, his father asks the blunt question, "Could you kill me if it came to that?" Out loud Mugeuk says no child could kill a parent, though in his heart he knows he would if he had to. He only swears to himself that this time he will gather no such bleak memories, and that none of this is for his father, strictly for his own good. By dawn the Cheonma decides a boar is beneath the heavenly demon and leads him into a bamboo grove after a tiger with a harder test. Sense a target 1,000 feet away by riding the wind. Mugeuk tangles his energy into the breeze and finds it, and a real tiger answers with a growl. Back in the palace, Mugeuk meditates in the throne hall, and now he can move dozens of branches of kai at once, the way his father once could. But mastery alone did not save this place. The palace was built to be unbreakable, guarded at all 8 directions by the 8 demon lords: the flashing sword saint in the north, the Cleaver Demon of blood sky in the south, the immortal fist in the east, the Ghost Fiend of the western spirits in the west, and the rest at the corners: the grinning jester, the drunken tiger, the jade viper with her poisons, and the demon Buddha with his mad monks. 8 of the strongest warriors alive, and it still was not enough. One of them betrayed the palace and let Mugi Hwa slip inside to kill his father. Mugeuk never learned which one, so in his eyes all 8 are guilty, and this time he plans to turn them into pawns. He gets his first chance sooner than he wants. Coming back from training, he finds Po Yang, a hulking bald disciple of the Cleaver Demon, harassing Enli in his courtyard. Po Yang demands an apology for the junior brother Mugeuk crippled, meaning Pyong-ho. Mugeuk instead demands that Po Yang apologize to Enli first for the filth he said to her. Po Yang laughs and calls her a fat wretch he would never kneel to. So Mugeuk gives him a choice: kneel or fight. Po Yang and his disciples draw their blades. Mugeuk kills the others first, and when Po Yang, sure of his own mercy, tries to spare the Cheonma's son by taking only an arm, Mugeuk cuts him down instead. And Lee watches, shaken, wounded that this man sneered at her as someone not even worth protecting, as Po Yang falls dead. The surviving disciples run, screaming that Mugeuk will pay for this. He tells them to carry his message word for word and warns that if they twist it, he will come for them in the night. And Lee asks why he went so far for her. He brushes it off. He did not do it for her only to strike down people who deserved it. Still, he tells her to remember this day and keep smiling like that. Privately, he has already run the numbers. The Cleaver Demon will swallow the insult rather than admit he could not keep his disciples in line, and killing Po Yang only helps Mugeuk draw the cult's eye as a successor worth watching. That night, alone by a great stone in the courtyard, he remembers the despair that came after his family fell the first time, and wonders what would have become of him with no second chance. That is exactly when the stone erupts. The Cleaver Demon of blood sky himself, Chinpagu, comes down out of a blaze of fiery kai with his enormous cleaver, and Mugeuk barely twists away. Then, as if nothing happened, the old monster sits down beside him. He mocks Mugeuk as the cherished youngest son of the Cheonma and muses about taking his head, just to see whether his father would avenge him or shrug it off. He carves a crack into the stone to show how little of the Supreme Commander's favor he thinks Mugeuk holds, a measly 10th. Mugeuk fires back that as his father's true son he is owed 7 parts to Chinpagu's 3. The Cleaver Demon grins and swings his blade right to Mugeuk's throat. One last test. Mugeuk does not move. He simply warns the old man that misfortune trails him like a shadow, and that Cheonma would be wise not to cross his path too often. Amused, the Cleaver Demon rises and leaves, telling Mugeuk he badly underestimates how much his father actually cares. Alone again, Mugeuk notices a thin, fresh wound along his side that he never felt open. He has passed the test and he already knows how the war ahead ends. But looking at that cut, he wonders, for the first time, whether this grinning old devil might turn out to be his first true adversary. The answer comes for him faster than he expects. Days later, in the dead of night, a cloaked swordsman drops onto a snowy rooftop and Mugeuk crosses the tiles to meet him. "Father!" His father has no time for greetings. Word has reached him that his son cut down one of Cheonma's disciples and he wants it straight. Mugeuk does not flinch. "I did, the bastard deserved it too." He explains that the Cleaver Demon is only testing whether their father truly sees Mugeuk as his heir, forcing the old man to choose between punishing his son and defending him. From there, the two of them fall into an old argument about what the cult is even for. Mugeuk tells his father their real enemy was never the orthodox sects. It is absolute evil itself, so vile that even devils would recoil from it, and only those willing to plunge their hands into that filth can forge a true demon way. Without correcting their path, he warns, "We won't last long, father." When the Cheonma presses him for more of these arrogant insights, Mugeuk pulls back. "No, not today, father." But he thinks he finally understands why Cheonma wanted him punished. His father leads him up into the mountains to a hidden stone gate carved with the marks of a secret grotto. This is the Halls of Ascension, the proving ground where the Cheonma's heirs are tested. Half the bloodline who ever entered never walked out alive, and even his ambitious elder son never dared bring it up. The Cheonma cleared it himself in 2 months, against an average of 3 years for everyone else. Mugeuk bristles at being shipped off to die just to soothe the rival lord's pride, but in the end he accepts, vowing to beat that 2-month record. His father's only parting words as the gate seals, "Let's try not dying to begin with." Deep inside the glowing halls, Mugeuk admits a private truth. At his old skill level, before the regression, even the first trial here would have been impossible for him. Trial 1 is to cut down every enemy without infusing the sword with Kai and without using blade blast, and he clears a chamber of red-marked soldier dummies on pure swordsmanship alone. Easier than I thought? Trial 2 is harder. Cut a solid iron ball clean in half within 2 hours, this time permitted though not required to channel Kai. A blade blast barely scratches it. Then he reads the graffiti left by everyone who failed before him, including a warning carved by his own father. "Lose your cool, lose your edge." That is when he sees the trap. A Kai-heated blade would incinerate whatever is hidden inside, so the trial is really about cutting without Kai at all. With time running out, he pushes his power outward only to feel the surface and finds a hairline groove running invisibly around the iron. One clean strike along that seam splits the ball open, and inside sits a glowing purple orb, a demon essence pill, a prize reserved for anyone patient enough to solve the riddle without ever unleashing their strength. He swallows the pill and meditates, letting its energy flood the weakest part of his cultivation, and comes out able to wield Kai more easily than ever. A test to sort medicine from poison twice in a row he passes on the strength of an old memory, an herbalist gathering rare plants for Ryonja, joking that the fumes are making his hair fall out just like his father's once did. Then comes the last one, the illusory circle of life and death, where a death inside the illusion is a death in the real world. This is the trial that nearly broke him in the life before. He steps into a desert so real that the wind and the dead branches feel true, and when an army of phantom warriors charges with genuine murder in their eyes, he steadies himself on one fact. They are not human, so he can cut them down without hesitation. Powered by the pill, one sweep of blade light shreds the first wave. Then a second rises, stronger than the first. He carves through them, wave after wave, his first real battle since the regression, the knowledge of his past life finally fusing with his younger body. His father's remembered words carry him, "Never stop moving." He fights until he is the only thing left standing among the corpses and asks the empty air, "Is it over?" A voice answers, "You have passed the trials, Ascendant. May you use your power to restore the great legacy of the heavenly demon cult." He should feel triumphant, and for a heartbeat he does, because he cleared in a single day what took his father 2 months. Then the cold calculation kicks in. If anyone learns how fast he did this, it will not earn him praise, it will earn him suspicion. So he does the only sane thing a man hiding the whole future can do. He stays inside, keeps training in secret, and waits. Exactly 100 days after that night, Mugeuk kneels before his father's throne and lies to his face. "I did my best, but I couldn't beat your record, father." The Cheonma presses him with sharp little follow-up questions, and for an instant he seems to catch the ghost of a smile on his son's mouth. Or am I imagining things? You are sharper than I gave you credit for. Walking away, Mugeuk turns the old wound over in his mind. He used to believe his father enjoyed watching his children fight to the death over succession. He knows better now. His father is simply a man willing to bury a child if that is the price of the cult surviving, a choice made with clear eyes, and that is worse than cruelty. Before he can leave, Chief Strategist Myung-sama intercepts him, praising the 100-day run as no small feat, and asks for private word. An anonymous letter has surfaced accusing the Demon Guard, one of the cult's main military branches, of corruption from within. Its Lord Commander happens to be the younger brother of Cheonma, the Cleaver Demon. The last time an investigator dug into it, he was murdered, and the supposed culprit conveniently took his own life. The chief strategist wants Mugeuk to be the new special investigator, fully aware it could get him killed. Mugeuk accepts, filing it away as just another one of his father's tests. Then he meets his partner, a young man from the Hwangshan office named Daryong Seo, who tells him quietly that the murdered investigator who came before was his mentor. At the gate of the Demon Dragon Palace, 2 Demon Guard soldiers block their path and sneer at Daryong's writ, mocking him as all hat and no cattle. When one makes a threat, Mugeuk quietly ruins the man's hand, calling it a little readjustment, and notes he will be eating left-handed for a while. One reminder that denying the Supreme Commander's writ is denying the Cheonma himself, and they are shown up to the 7th floor office. Inside waits Lord Commander Cheonma, an unassuming old man with a wide toothy grin whose kai alone presses down on Daryong. He is all warmth. He knows Cheonma openly backs Mugeuk's elder brother, he says, but has always privately considered Mugeuk the rightful heir, and he pledges full cooperation. Be careful, he adds, smiling. I mean every word. On the way out, Mugeuk reads the real shape of it. His father may well have sent him here hoping one of the 2 rivals, himself or the Lord Commander, would not walk away. Back at headquarters, the chief strategist confronts the Cheonma with a blade close at hand, accusing him of throwing the boy to the wolves to punish his bold tongue. The Cheonma coldly lifts his sword in answer. If the boy wants to talk the talk, he had better be ready to walk the walk. The Demon Guard sends its reply first. Someone strings up a dead, bound crow in one of the corridors, and the men of the 1st Division read it as a curse, muttering their fury at the Hwangshan investigators. Ho Jang, captain of the 3rd Division and by reputation the hardest, most skilled fighter among the captains, storms up to confront Mugeuk over it. Mugeuk plays it cool, claiming someone from the guard left the thing on his own bed, and needles Ho Jang to go punish whoever is actually responsible. Then he demands the 3rd Division hand over every record it keeps, coin ledger included. Ho Jang erupts and just as quickly deflates when Mugeuk reminds him that obstructing this investigation is as good as treason. But once they are alone, Mugeuk says the thing he has been holding back. He knows Ho Jang is the one who sent the original anonymous tip. The captain goes still, then admits it, explaining that he staged the loud public challenge precisely to keep Lord Commander Cheonma from suspecting where the letter came from. Mugeuk tells him how he knew. When the crow went up, the 3rd Division's men were the only ones who kept their mouths shut, and the only ones who looked worried when their captain was baited into a fight. That is loyalty, not rot. Then Ho Jang tells him the rest. In the failed investigation before this one, the strongest captain the Demon Guard ever had, his own closest friend since they sat their entrance exams together, sent a letter just like his. The man was murdered for it and then branded a killer, the story spun so that he had supposedly slain the investigator and then himself. Mugeuk lays the truth on the table without ceremony. He believes Lord Commander Cheonma gave the order, and Captain Dang Go of the 1st Division carried it out with his own hands, which means the corruption runs all the way to the top of the Demon Guard. Ho Jang weeps and Mugeuk and Daryong thank him for his honesty and his nerve. Privately, Mugeuk makes himself a promise. In the life he lived before, a man like Ho Jang did not survive. This time he will. That is the whole point of coming back. Slay the ones who have it coming and save the ones who do not. Not long after, a man in a yellow ceremonial robe mentions that the rumor mill has decided Mugeuk is not fit to become the next Cheonma. Mugeuk takes it as a compliment in disguise. Being fit for that throne, he says, does not strike him as a good thing. He has no desire to rule by fear the way the old order does. It is time for the cult to shed its dead husk, and if he fails at that, the only fate waiting for his family is total ruin. The very next day the change turns bloody. Mugeuk finds Demon Guard soldiers standing over a Hwangshan investigator beaten to a pulp, Daryong bloodied beside him, the man's fractures reaching down to his ribs. He rounds on Captain Go, who admits it all without a flicker of shame, calling it a gentle correction after a shoulder check. Mugeuk recites the captain's long record of killing cult members over nothing, and Dango only boasts that the demon guard grants him the right to execute anyone he pleases on the spot. So Mugeuk challenges him to a duel, offering generously not to use his right hand. Dango laughs and draws. He is careless enough to cut down some of his own subordinates in the scramble. Mugeuk breaks him anyway, and when the captain gasps out "Mercy, sir," crushes his skull under his heel instead. He names the dead men's crime treason and carves through the soldiers who charged to avenge their captain, then tells Dango's corpse to remember the families his killings destroyed. Through the settling smoke, a furious guard member steps forward to demand who he thinks he is, slaughtering their brethren like this. Cheonma moves next, and he moves smiling. He calls Mugeuk in for drinks to smooth over the unintended clash and tries at once to hang everything on the dead Captain Go, that rather shady character. Mugeuk points out how ugly it is to throw his own most trusted man to the dogs. The Lord Commander offers to call it even, 3 of Mugeuk's underlings for 1 captain, and when Mugeuk says he lacks the evidence to close the case on official head cult business, Cheonma breezily offers to fabricate whatever documents are needed. Mugeuk mentions an anonymous tip that the 1st Division took a private off-book contract, something he cannot just gloss over. He stops by the demon physician's clinic, where the beaten investigator is out of danger, and tells the old healer to spare nothing on their medicine. The next day the guard hands him a forged assassin's ledger, claiming it was found in Dango's home. They took the bait, he thinks. He interrogates a captured 1st Division man named Gu-Yang, accusing him of the forgery on Cheonma's orders. Gu-Yang denies all of it, so Mugeuk lets him walk, unharmed and untouched, with a warning that lands like a stone in the gut. The moment Cheonma sees him strolling free without a scratch, the Lord Commander will assume he confessed, and a man like that can silence anyone. The trap is set, and Mugeuk tells Daryong exactly how it closes. Cheonma will never let himself be taken alive, so the plan was never arrest. "I'll take his life. Capture the Lord Commander," he explains, "and his older brother the Cleaver Demon will move heaven and earth to save him, fabricate new evidence, and purge everyone who touched the case, Ho Jang and Daryong and Mugeuk himself included. Kill him while he resists arrest, and there is no hostage left for the brother to bargain over." Daryong asks whether Mugeuk will really be alright once the Cleaver Demon's wrath comes down. Mugeuk answers with the certainty of a man who has already read the ending. Not everyone who loses family sets out on a life of vengeance, and someone as calculating as Cheonma will not throw his own life away chasing reckless revenge. He meets Cheonma one last time for a farewell drink. The old man plays at sorrow over his departure and hopes for future favor. Mugeuk needles him, asking why a man rich enough for 10 lifetimes of comfort needed to keep the demon guard on as his private muscle. Cheonma waves it off, calling the dead Dango a mere puppet who knew nothing. Pushed to say what he truly thinks, the mask finally cracks. He snarls that Mugeuk's heart is good for nothing but evil and greed, shatters his own teacup and lunges. Mugeuk turns the strike aside and answers with the 5th form of the sword of the skyward path, pierce the skies. The blow runs the Lord Commander through, and Cheonma dies gasping, eyes wide with disbelief, because he never once suspected the young master had hidden strength like this. The first man of the season to learn too late what Mugeuk really is. Standing over the body, Mugeuk declares it plainly. Cheonma was slain for resisting lawful arrest, guilty of more than 20 counts of murder and conspiracy. He orders Daryong to arrest the entire 1st Division and hands Captain Jang of the 3rd Division command of the roundup, his authority empowered by the Cheonma himself. The rod at the top of the demon guard is cut out in a single stroke. Then the summons comes. He climbs alone toward a grand throne room, and there, waiting among the cult's highest officials, stands a white-haired man wrapped in red. The grinning devil he once marked as his first true adversary has come to collect. Except the devil has not come to collect. He has come to be reported to. Mugeuk crosses the throne hall and lowers himself to one knee before the white-haired man in red and greets him the way only a student greets a teacher. "It has been a while, honored master." The first true adversary he swore to hunt is also the man who taught him the sword. Cheonma, the Cleaver Demon of blood sky, spiky silver hair and a heavy gray mustache, a great cleaver at his side, waves off the written report he was handed. He wants the recent events from Mugeuk's own mouth, so Mugeuk gives them to him straight. He killed Cheonma, the Cleaver Demon's own younger brother, running him clean through the heart during a lawful arrest for more than 20 counts of murder. Cheonma only wants to know why his brother would attack outright when his crimes were already exposed, and Mugeuk credits their supreme commander for that. Cheonma could not risk fighting the Cheonma's son at full strength. An advisor in dark robes drifts in and tells the Cleaver Demon to go rest and prepare a funeral, and Cheonma thanks his lord and rises, leaving Mugeuk kneeling in the wake of a man who just learned who killed his brother and did not so much as blink. His father summons him to the throne next, and the reward is not the one he braced for. He expected the pale blossom blade. Instead, the Cheonma sets in his hands the dark demon sword, one of the cult's two sacred weapons, twin to the white demon sword, and then says the part that matters loud enough for the whole hall to hear. "I approve of my son's actions, and you shall not lay a finger on him." It is aimed at exactly one man. Walking out, Mugeuk reads the gift for what it is, a wall thrown up in public between him and the master whose brother he just killed. Cheonma understands it too. He invites his student to sit with him in the garden, and there he tests him, conjuring an illusion of a screaming figure howling for vengeance over my brother's murder. Mugeuk feeds the expected rage right back at it, and the Cleaver Demon laughs the whole thing off. Then he says the thing that unsettles even Mugeuk. He felt no grief when he heard Cheonma had died. He felt relief. A corrupt brother could no longer drag his name down into the mud. "What is it that you're looking for in me, Cheonma?" Mugeuk asks and gets no clean answer. Alone that night he trains with the dark demon sword, weighing whether the old fox is coiling to strike or truly willing to let it lie, and decides he has no regrets either way. The blade itself is sentient, and as he pours Kai into it, it warms to him. Then he opens a door in his own home to find the room packed with grim, silent warriors, the axe demons, radiating a wall of hostile dark Kai meant to crush him where he stands. For a moment he wonders if Cheonma sent them. He does not draw. He recognizes their massed Kai as fuel and turns it inward, forcing his meridians through stage after stage of the heavenly meridian fortification, demanding more and more, until the axe demons themselves seem to grant him their approval. His father later confirms their master had nothing to do with it. The Cheonma calls him to the foot of the throne and asks if he wants it. Mugeuk climbs the dais, sits, and feels nothing at all. His father admits it was the same for him, that he felt nothing after shedding an ocean of blood and killing his own brother to earn this seat, and that the only thing he ever truly feared was being wrong in his own judgment. He worries his youngest son is walking toward a choice just as final. Then in the same breath he rambles about lining the palace with statues of the four great flowers under the sky, waves a hand and cedes the seat. "The seat's all yours." Mugeuk settles into his father's throne and to the old man's departing back asks the quiet, monstrous question he has been carrying. "Father, do I have your permission to kill the Cleaver Demon?" The answer is no, and his father laughs it off. Cheonma was within reach, his brother is not. But the Cheonma owns his part in throwing his son at the demon guard in the first place and hands him something in exchange: command of the entire Huangshan Pavilion, the cult's foremost inspectorate. Mugeuk suspects he is simply being handed his father's oldest headaches, thrown to the wolves again with his own life as collateral. So before he accepts, he asks for a weapon, 7 days inside the heavenly demon archives, the vault of martial secrets kept for the Cheonma alone. His father warns the place holds only guarded fragments, never full mastery, and grants it anyway, unable to read the boy. Inside, a memory surfaces of a past leader named Baekdo-ju, who once found a long-lost technique doing nothing grander than propping up the 19th bookshelf. Mugeuk walks to that same shelf, finds the same book, and studies its 4 forms, the 4 steps of the wind god: shadow step, flickering step, piercing step, flash step. 7 days later he tells the Cheonma he has learned footwork thought lost for generations, and his father, certain it must be a lie, demands proof and offers only that he may walk away alive. Mugeuk performs the shadow step. He vanishes and reappears at his father's shoulder before the man can even turn, and for the first time the Supreme Commander looks genuinely rattled by his own son. Pressed on where a technique that is not even in the archives came from, Mugeuk tells a story his father cannot decide whether to believe, that he found the text by chance and destroyed its most important pages afterward. Because that's exactly what I would have done. It stuns the old man more than the lie would have. And then Mugeuk says the truth he rarely says aloud. He does not want the throne, only to kill Mugi Hwa and keep his father and everyone else alive, and once it is done he means to wander far and wide until the Cheonma steps down on his own. To seal the peace he offers a trade, the 4 steps for the divine demon guarding art, a secret meant for the Cheonma and his heir alone. His father agrees, makes him recite the verses first, then passes his own art down in private in return. For a moment the two share a secret that belongs to no one else before his father flicks him and warns him not to push his luck. Later, when An sees the fresh mark on his face and demands to know who dared, Mugeuk deflates her. "That scoundrel would be my father," and then, alone with his bodyguard, makes her a vow. He will find a way to lift the side effect of her stonehide shell. She only has to bear with him a little longer. He has bigger plans for An than guarding his back. He tells her the cult has to become a place where no one is forced to sacrifice a piece of themselves for their art, the way she was, then relieves her of bodyguard duty and names her leader of a new unit that answers to him alone, the Hidden Shadows. She protests that the role does not even exist yet, then accepts with honor good master. Standing up a secret organization takes coin though, far more than an allowance, and Mugeuk knows exactly where to get it. In the life before his regression, he watched a wealthy merchant house wiped out, betrayed from the inside, and this time he means to reach it first. He slips out of the sect in plain clothes. On the road toward Nampyeong, he rides with a band of sellswords escorting a hidden noblewoman and a young boy, until their own escort captain, a greedy dog named Dang Yong, poisons the rations to thin the ranks for the men who hired him. Mugeuk skipped the meal. He cuts Dang Yong down, then the cloaked strangers who close on the carriage in the name of one Master Gwon, covers the boy's eyes and finishes the last of them with a piercing step. The woman is Seon Jeom, daughter of the Golden Manor, the richest house in Fujian. Her father, Lord Asu Jeom, has been betrayed and seized by the very retainer sworn to protect him, one Gwon, the man Mugeuk just killed. She begs to hire her rescuer to save her father, and he answers with a simple "let's go." He walks into the enemy's stronghold alone and carves it apart, and when the mastermind holds Lord Jeom at knife point and Seon screams for her father, Mugeuk answers with the fourth form of the Sword of the Skyward Path, Blazing Heaven, a vertical pillar of energy that ends the standoff and frees the old man alive. For his reward, he asks only to carry out of the vault whatever he can move in a single trip on his own kai, no cart and no help. Sold off across a dozen markets, the haul comes to 3.8 million coins, the foundation stone of the Hidden Shadows. Back in the throne room, he watches his father take reports from chief strategist Sama and wonders whether the Cheonma is happy or just another man locked in a seat he never wanted. When he asks leave to build his own faction to rival the followers of the 8 demon lords, his father flatly refuses, warning it would only hand his elder brother the right to demand the same. Mugeuk does not argue. He sets down the 3.8 million coins bundled like a scroll, calls it an allowance for the father who raised him, and takes his leave while the Cheonma is still too stunned to speak. He never expected a yes on the first try anyway, and escorts him to the Hwangshan Pavilion, where the yellow-robed guards greet their new chief overseer with a warmth that makes him suspicious enough to ask whether someone threatened their wages. The truth is simpler. Captain Dang Go of the Demon Guard had killed one of their investigators and crippled another, and Mugeuk had crushed the man's skull for it, so the pavilion is his the moment he walks in. He promises them their lives are about to get either happier or far more miserable, and that their hearts will race like never before. His first case files, pushed his way by a yellow-robed aide, leads straight back into the Cleaver Demon's circle, and warns him to hold off since Lord Gu is a breath away from losing his patience. Mugeuk will not look away from what is on the parchment. At a tavern called the Elegant Lotus, he finds a grieving father drunk with rage, whose son was beaten into a 10-day coma by the son of a demon lord known as the White Cleaver, then had to watch the culprit walk free on a Bautan paid cover-up. The bully turns up to gloat, needles the old man into drawing his blade, cuts him down, and calls it self-defense in front of hired witnesses. Then he brags and confesses on the record that he crippled the boy for refusing to steal for him and for reporting him. The whole tavern swears it heard nothing. Mugeuk heard every word and beats the bully bloody on the spot. When a bystander recognizes him aloud as young Master Mugeuk and the room realizes the Supreme Commander's son is standing among them, he cuts the groveling short. He is here as chief overseer, not as anyone's son. He reopens the case the pavilion buried, lists the extortion and the coerced theft and the near murder, and sentences the White Cleaver's son to 20 years at the least. The boy threatens him with his father's revenge, so Mugeuk adds 10 more years for threatening a chief overseer, dares him to name one decent thing he has ever done, and drops him when he cannot. He means to arrest the White Cleaver too, he says, for leaning on the pavilion's investigators, and the bully's own accomplices scramble to inform on both of them to save their own skins. Then Mugeuk turns to the grieving father with the one thing he has held back all along. He already sent the demon physician ahead, and the boy is awake now, asking for the father he thought he had lost. As the old man breaks down and clutches his hand, Mugeuk tells him it is the cult that owes him thanks for a lifetime of quiet service. Then he turns to the palace lying dark and vast beneath him, a board he has only started to set, and lets the night settle over the first pieces he has moved into place. Morning, and the board is already moving. In the Hwangshan Pavilion courtyard before a crowd of yellow-robed officials, Senior Special Investigator Mugeuk meets Mugeuk with an apology laid over a warning. They had no choice but to summon the chief overseer, he says, because reopening a closed case makes the whole pavilion look weak. When Mugeuk asks flatly who actually wants it reopened, Daryong and a line of officials step forward. So he lays the buried case bare. A boy named Ho Yang confessed his crimes the moment he was arrested, yet the file was sealed by an investigator named Hwa Jong, and the easy story says Hwa Jong took a bribe from the White Cleaver. Mugeuk tries to cut in and Mugeuk lets his kai surge across the courtyard until the older man's voice dies. You shall speak when spoken to. Then the truth, his own investigation proved Hwa Jong never took a coin, the real leash was crueler. The White Cleaver threatened Hwa Jong's little sister, his only family. Hwa Jong drops to his knees. I've done the unforgivable, Chief Overseer. Mugeuk pardons him since the crime came before Hwangshan was his to command and says guards are already posted around the sister. Then he makes it law before the crowd. As long as he leads Hwangshan, every official's family is his own to protect, and anyone who coerces his people answers for it. In return, they serve without fear and without favor. The next day he collects the man who made the threat. In the crowd swearing themselves to him, one face stops him cold. Hyang! He says the name like it belongs to another life, then lets it go and gives Special Investigator Co the order. Arrest T Yang, the White Cleaver, father of Ho Yang. The man commands over 100 axe demons and won't come quietly, so if he resists, the charge is treason. T Yang, top-knot white as bone and a red sash across his bare chest, greets Mugeuk as young master without a shred of respect and slides an offer over the table. Coin now and powerful backing later for the succession fight, since nearly every faction already stands behind Mugeuk's elder brother. Mugeuk plays along, calls him Master Yang, lets him think it's settled. Then the White Cleaver rises to leave and learns the summons was a trap, the treason charge real all along. For years his son beat a friend half to death for sport, and T Yang buried it by threatening an investigator's whole family. His mask cracks. He hurls his master's name like a spear, one of the 8. Mugeuk answers cold and flat. That master did nothing when Mugeuk cut down the Lord Commander of the Demon Guard himself. Half an hour to confess for a lighter sentence. T Yang smashes the table to splinters and Mugeuk only asks if he means to threaten his family too, then leaves him to scream alone. A colder thought trails him out. An enforcer, this low felt safe threatening his people. Can the cult's ruin really be laid on Mugi Hwa alone? That night he goes to the one man who can answer for the White Cleaver. Chinpagu waits beside his great cleaver and greets him with a smile and a needle. Nice of you to drop by, Mugeuk, or should I say, Chief Overseer Geom. The courtyard is quiet. His master pours the wine and admits he once warned the boy against seeking him out so often. Something has changed. Ever since Mugeuk won the Demon Gauntlet and made his bold request of the Supreme Commander, a strange respect has climbed in the old man, the kind of wish he says only a clever man would make. But his blade has been weeping. One disciple tried to poison Mugeuk, another disrespected his people. His own younger brother bled the demon guard dry, and now his captain has threatened a Hwangshan investigator. He blames Mugeuk for surrounding himself with men beneath his virtue. Mugeuk hands it straight back. Those men are a perfect reflection of the master who made them. The Kai turns to iron. Set the White Cleaver free. Mugeuk will not be ordered, and when the standoff holds, it is Chinpa who eases off, laughing at his nerve. He wants to part ways with the rotten, he says. Then comes the thing that changes everything. If you wish to become the Cheonma, then drink that wine. I will support your rise. Mugeuk goes still. Here is a demon lord, one of the 8, publicly sworn behind his elder brother, offering to flip to the boy who killed his brother, crippled his disciple, and jailed his captain. Chinpa says it plainly. He means to gamble his own fate on exactly that fearless madness. But a man who already knows the ending stays careful. Mugeuk does not touch the cup. He will keep to his duties for now. Chinpa presses, swears the alliance is his father's will too, and Mugeuk only buys room. 5 days, not tomorrow. Chinpa relents, amused. Of course, you do that, son. Then with no warning he whips a fistful of fire at the boy's head, and Mugeuk turns it aside in a shower of sparks, smirking that the old man never did learn to hold back. Days pass with the wager hanging. Mugeuk orders T Yang and his son thrown into the deepest, darkest hole the prison owns, then carries the work outward, opening a Hwangshan branch in a village called Demon Hollow, where any grievance against the cult's warriors can now be filed, and anyone who takes revenge on a complainant meets the executioner. From Hwangshan he vows he will shield the commoners and the weak because every life weighs the same. At night he drinks with Chinpa again. I'm ready, he says, and they empty their cups. Then he asks for a snack to go with the wine and names it. Offer me the demon guard as a side, sir. Chinpa's patience detonates. He swears he will carry the boy's head to his father's palace and comes off the bench with his cleaver swinging. The duel tears across rooftops and courtyards and settles nothing. Mid-swing Mugeuk weighs testing his own reading of the piercing step against his master, then lets it pass. Time is on his side. On the ground he holds the line. The demand stands, so who sits in the Lord Commander's seat? When Cheonma rules the boy himself out, Mugeuk names Ho Jang captain of the 3rd Division. Greed, Cheonma spits and Mugeuk throws the old man's own words back at him. Was it not you who told me to devour everything in my path with my madness, and the hand to shake came from you, master? In the life he already lived, Mugeuk never learned how deep this ambition ran, for Cheonma was the first of the 8 demon lords to fall. Then the memory is gone, and Cheonma ends the bout by slamming him into the dirt. 2 days later Ho Jang comes to him privately, uneasy, asking how the Cleaver Demon of all men put his name forward for Lord Commander. Mugeuk owns it. That's right, I requested Master Gu myself, he says, and steadies the doubting captain. That night he slips into his father's chambers, teases the Supreme Commander about the flowers on his night robe, then lays out the real shape of it. He wants his father to refuse Cheonma's demon guard request. He is using the cleaver as a pawn. He will let the old man cut him, because unlike the aged and tired blade, he only grows stronger with every scar, and he means to take everything Cheonma has and make the guard his own. Then he goes back to mocking the flowers. In the throne room the trap tightens as designed. Cheonma asks the Supreme Commander for leave to take Mugeuk under his wing and forge him into something rare, and the Cheonma grants it, warning him to give the boy his full support. Emboldened, Cheonma asks one more favor, a free hand over the demon guard, which means backing Ho Jang. The Cheonma refuses. He will not leave the elder brother at a disadvantage, and once you back someone you pick one and never look back. Outside, Cheonma reports the loss with a shrug. It appears your father favors your brother more than you. Mugeuk pokes the wound. So the great Cleaver folds over something this trivial? Then he should never have begged to back him. Stung, Cheonma dares him to show how it is done, and Mugeuk sets a wager. If he gets Ho Jang made Lord Commander, Cheonma grants him whatever he asks. If he fails, he comes under the Cleaver's wing without a word, and he names his prize now before a single stone is played. An elixir more potent than the demon essence pill, the legendary divine pill of the heavens, which he knows his master keeps. They seal it, blade drawn an oath. I trust you'll keep your word. Alone, his real reasoning surfaces. With the divine pill deepening his Kai reserves, he will never again lose to one of the 8 by simply running dry, and he already knows how to win this bet. He asks a gray-bearded court elder the odds of Ho Jang rising, and hears they are about as good as pigs taking flight, since the Cheonma already turned Cheonma down once. Then he poses the question that is the whole plan. What if Ho Jang were recommended by a second one of the 8 demon lords? A second demon lord means the celestial Northblade clan, and the chief overseer already has a blade at its door. One of its warriors, Jongtak-bi, is brought before him accused of preying on the maids under his roof. Bi denies it and demands the girl face him. Mugeuk grants it. 3 former maids are led in and one short-haired and silent only nods. That nod is enough. Bi rages that she lies out of fear, then drowns under the evidence that he swore to kill the girls' families if they spoke. Cornered, he confesses he toyed with each of them for 2 or 3 years before moving to the next and begs, offering to sign any oath. Mugeuk tells him there is no need. He will not be heading to a cell. The sword takes him where he stands. Your place is in neither heaven nor hell. He tells the weeping maids the man is dead and their families safe, and to go and live without fear, keeping this as the day their own courage bought them justice. Alone within, he warns that if the cult's elite keep hiding behind titles while the weak go unprotected, they will earn every reprisal the orthodox sects can send. And warns him back. Word of a dead Northblade warrior could bring the flashing sword saint down on them. So Mugeuk sends Daryong ahead to say the chief overseer will come and explain the complications himself. He rides to the clan's mountain compound, and the leader who receives him is nothing the title promised. The flashing sword saint, one of the 8, is a strikingly young and beautiful woman. Her name is Yeonryong-so. The strangeness of her runs through everything. She looks to be in her 20s and is more than twice that, and somehow the years only leave the petals of the saint more unblemished. She waves off, esteemed master, and asks to be treated as another sister of the cult, since real respect is never handed over by age alone. Mugeuk agrees, on the condition she call him by his name. He brings Daryong forward to brief her on the B case, and she says plainly her clan will not contest the ruling. A man who preys on the helpless should meet the sharpest judgment. And here Mugeuk already knows how her story ends, though she never will. In the life he lived before, after Mugi Hwa's blood tide gutted the cult and cut down the Cheonma himself, the great masters and the 8 tore each other apart over the empty throne, and Yeonryong alone was left standing on the bodies. Her reign was short and drenched, and before 3 years passed her own predecessor murdered her. The first man she ever cut down as Cheonma was the Cleaver Demon, so he tells her the honest reason he came. The rivalry between his master and her has boxed him in, and Cheonma alone lacks the pull to seat Ho Jang as Lord Commander. Would she lend her name? She laughs that he has an uncanny way of stirring a heart and agrees, calling it proof she loves the cult no less than the Cleaver Demon does. Mugeuk reads the deeper current. She still believes she may fight for the throne one day. She would never let Cheonma keep the boy all to himself, and she despises the man so completely she wouldn't lift a finger to pull him from a river. Now 2 of the 8 vouch for the same name. In his chambers, the Supreme Commander hears how his youngest roped in Yeonryong of all people, weighs Ho Jang, capable and honest but short on political sense, a double-edged blade, and gives the order regardless. Appoint Ho Jang as the Lord Commander of the Guard. The advisor bows. The demon guard answers to a loyal man now and threw him quietly to Mugeuk. Ho Jang finds Mugeuk on a palace rooftop, unsure what to say. The promotion still sits strange on his shoulders. He thanks the young lord, admits he cannot imagine how he would ever repay a kindness this large, and Mugeuk needles him gently, doubting the man will ever truly return the favor at all. Then he tells Ho Jang the truth, or most of it. There were 2 reasons he chose him. The first is simple. Ho Jang is the most suitable man for the job, and Mugeuk picked him for the sake of the demon guard and the cult, not out of any personal warmth. That honesty is what breaks the older man open. He confesses that he was the one who sent in the tip, the whistle that exposed the rot at the top of the guard. He did it for a dead friend, all in the name of revenge, always telling himself his choices were for the people. Mugeuk lets him have the moment, then gives him the second reason. He hoped the demon guard would stand behind him. Ho Jang does not hesitate. He pledges his loyalty to Mugeuk alone and swears in the same breath that he will still serve the Cheonma and the cult faithfully. One more piece slides into place. That leaves Cheonma. Mugeuk's swordmaster jokes about being treated like a guardian stone, then asks the question that matters. How did a brat like Mugeuk get the sword Saint Yeonryong to endorse Ho Jang? Mugeuk shrugs it off. He flattered her ego, told her Cheonma was the only true lord among the 8, and used them both against each other. Cheonma laughs in his face. The boy is the one who has been had. That vixen surely saw through the whole game, and she will come for Mugeuk, peel him away with an offer he cannot refuse. So Cheonma moves first. He brings out a treasure he has hoarded for years and never once dared to use on himself. The demon essence pill. The divine pill of the heavens. He presses it into Mugeuk's hand and says he will stake his remaining days on him. And here Mugeuk does something no careful man would. He swallows the pill on the spot in front of Cheonma and asks his master to stand guard over him while he absorbs it. It is the oldest trust between warriors. If the pill were poisoned, he would be helpless at Cheonpa's mercy for the antidote. They banter about it, half serious. What if you are wrong about me, old man? We will cross that bridge when we come to it. Then Mugeuk closes his eyes. The power that comes off that pill is monstrous. Blue Kai coils around him and cracks the air, his whole body straining to hold a river that wants to burst its banks. He grits through it, tears in his eyes, and forces the flood into his own meridians. When it settles, something has changed. He can feel it. The gap has closed. His blade can stand toe-to-toe with one of the 8 now in real, killing combat. It still is not enough. He wants more. He reports the win to his father plainly. He gained the divine pill of the heavens off the Cleaver Demon, and the Cheonma, who never misses a chance to scold him, goes quiet instead, because he is the one who gave Cheonma that pill in the first place long ago as the prize of a wager Cheonma lost by staking himself. Mugeuk only grins wider. He is just getting started. He means to bleed the 8 dry of everything they have. His father does not lecture him this time. He warns him, abandon all hope of happiness if you are serious about this path. Mugeuk vows he will find it anyway, come what may. Now the courtship begins in earnest, and it is a slow, circling thing. Mugeuk visits Yeonryong in her flower garden, calls her sister, brings wine she will not drink. She tells him to cut ties with the Cleaver Demon if he wants her support. He tells her flatly that he intends to have them both. He plays the 2 demon lords against each other for weeks. He drinks with Cheonma at a pleasure house tavern called the Elegant Lotus, argues over whether fear or kindness gets better work from a frightened man. Wrecks half the furniture in a clash of tempers, then pays the terrified tavern master twice over. Cheonma demands a real pledge. Could Mugeuk drive a cold blade into his heart if he ever turned traitor? Mugeuk answers with silence, and the 2 pour for each other without a word. The cups of their hearts have already exchanged their toasts. Around the edges, the board keeps moving where Mugeuk cannot see it. Yeonryong reports to a masked figure she calls Master, the 2 of them weighing whether this boy carries the flame of the true heir. The flame Cheonma may already have noticed while they stay blind to it. Then she walks alone through the dark to a lit house in the woods, where someone receives her without a word. Between the drinking and the scheming, Mugeuk builds. His father lets him into the private training hall for the first time and watches him run the 4 steps of the wind god across water, 900 articulations in a burst of blue light, and then does the rarest thing of all. He listens, he accepts his son's own reading of the footwork. He shares a meal, the first they have ever taken face to face, and Mugeuk, who always claimed he never missed this, understands at that table that he did. He asks a favor. He wants to bring his bodyguard and Lee into the fold and teach her the sword of the skyward path, the blood secret of the Cheonma's line, because she is more precious to him than blood. His father grants it on one condition. If Mugeuk ever means to kill one of the 8, he tells his father first. And Lee weeps when Mugeuk tells her she will learn it, protesting that it is not hers to hold, and he pats her head and says she has always been someone he holds dear. Always, he reforms Hwangshan too, paying every investigator a gift out of his own pocket to keep them clean of bribes, quietly covering the ones drowning in family debt. Loyalty comes from somewhere, one of them tells him. Mugeuk calls it plain fairness. He tracks down Cheonma's forgotten birthday and hands him a box top-grade blood purge pill, stunning the old Cleaver, who cannot remember the last time anyone marked the day. That pill is not just a gift. When Yeonryong finally makes her move and intercepts him at dusk with poured wine, Mugeuk drinks without checking because he took the blood purge pill first and it kills any poison held in the mouth. She presses him. What does he actually want? Help winning the succession over his elder brother, he says, with no strings, no promise to cut Cheonma loose. She scoffs that only parents give that kind of help. And around all of this, his father does something else unprecedented, perching on Mugeuk's rooftop at sunset just to talk, proposing a father-son trip to the cool Pale Peaks. 2 demon lords circling his son, and now the Cheonma himself, one twist after another. It all comes to a head on Cheonma's birthday when Mugeuk seats his 2 rivals at the same table. It goes exactly as badly as it must. Yeonryong and Cheonma tear into each other over old wounds. She calls him a selfish imp, he tells her to go spout more drunken nonsense, and she storms out swearing she will not walk beside the old fool. Cheonma smashes the table and leaves. Mugeuk pays for the wreckage again and admits to himself, alone that night, that he has to keep forcing these 2 to the brink to drag every buried feeling out of them, and wonders if any of it is worth it. Then he feels her. Yeonryong is waiting in his courtyard. She hid her presence and came anyway, knowing he would sense it, and she throws his own words back at him. He despises leaders who win followers on empty dreams. She despises strength with no heart, people who hurt others because they cannot imagine a better way to persuade them. She draws, even with her back turned he cannot find a single opening in her. She did not earn her epithet for nothing. She offers a wager. If he wins, she does whatever he wants, even at the cost of her life. If he loses, he cuts Cheonma out of his own. She will even yield him the first 3 moves. He decides to end it inside those 3 moves. First form of the sword of the skyward path. Heaven balances on steel. Their blades meet and blast them both through the stone courtyard in a cloud of dust. She breaks her promise to hold back because against his shifting strikes defending alone was never going to hold. Second form, shifting heavens. Third form, dark heaven, a black wave so heavy that for one instant even Mugeuk wonders if he is being pushed back. It takes her. And at the last possible breath he wrenches his killing blow aside, blurting out no, anywhere but the face, and disarms her instead of ending her. She wants to know how, he tells her quietly. He warned her about the sword's fangs, the sentient dark demon sword riding his hand. He has already reached true mastery of the skyward path, and the divine pill of the heavens has fed his cultivation past anything she guessed. She keeps her word always and concedes, but Mugeuk does not demand she abandon Cheonma. He kneels, sword laid down, and asks Sister Yeonryong to accept his apology for playing her and to lend him her heartfelt support in the fight for the throne. He calls her an elegant lily, noble and unfouled by the world, and leaves her speechless. Walking away alone, he admits the flattery might be a lie, because he already knows how her story goes. He has seen her standing bloodied among corpses, a desolate wasteland behind her eyes, and he lets himself hope, just this once, that tonight bends her off that path and lets something bloom there instead. She sleeps a full day after the draw of their second duel, better than she has in years, and jokes she might need to fight him every morning to rest that well. They spar for 3 days by a moonlit waterfall, and somewhere in it the murder goes out of her blade and it becomes something purer. She confesses she buried her true nature young, out of fear her brother would kill her for it, and that these duels are the first time she has been fully herself. The old wall of her mastery cracks and she feels she can soar past it at last. They part with a bond forged in steel, no parting words, one last singing of the blades. But that same night she drinks alone, unsettled by everything she never should have felt, and when her attendant Yujong comes to tell her a new man is waiting in the inner chamber, she cuts him off cold. No more, stop bringing them here. She has never used that pleading tone with him before, and it lands like a slap. For years, Yujong has quietly supplied her with young men, ever since he first offered one to a lonely woman, and he told himself the secret was what made him her chosen successor. Now she has changed all at once, and he knows exactly who to blame. She began to change the moment that bastard showed up at our door. His resentment settles in, small and patient, a new shadow forming just off the edge of the board. The bodies turn up in the forest before the rumor does. More than a dozen of them, freshly buried ordinary villagers with the dirt still soft over their graves and every chest carved hollow where a heart should be. Men, women, children. A senior investigator in yellow robes brings the report, and the chief overseer only has to hear hearts torn out to know the shape of it. This is the grand art of soul siphon, a technique that drinks the life straight out of a living body, and he knows exactly one man in the cult with the skill and the stomach to work it. The Ghost Fiend. Then they hand him the proof, and that is what makes his skin crawl. A ghost fan, a sorcery tool of the Order of the Western Spirits left lying among the corpses where any wandering herbalist could trip over it. Too clean, too convenient. Somebody wanted this found, wanted the chief overseer to look at these bodies and say Yasuo's name. So he asks who profits from aiming him at the Ghost Fiend, and one face surfaces first. Yujong. He remembers the way only he can that in the life he already lived Yujong died with a blade meant for the sword saint in his hands, moving under Yasuo's sorcery, loving Yondryong so even as he tried to kill her. If the Ghost Fiend is winding that man up again, the danger has already begun. Stay away from her, Mugeuk thinks, not this time. He goes alone to the Order of the Western Spirits, into fog thick with morning bloom, flowers whose scent unravels any kai not disciplined enough to hold. And there, for the first time in this life, he stands face to face with Yasuo. Gray skin, purple eyes under a pointed hood, a toothy grin that never quite closes. The last of the 8 to survive last time. Mugeuk lays the fan down as evidence, and Yasuo calls up his subordinate Nunghyu, who swears he lost his own fan the day before. So Mugeuk tosses him a second fan, a different one, and watches Nunghyu catch it on instinct and blurt, "Yes, this is mine," caught in his own mouth, but a slip of the tongue is not a corpse with a name on it. Nunghyu gives up nothing under questioning, sealed by loyalty and a fear too deep to crack in the time the law allows, and without hard proof they cannot hold him. He walks free. Nunghyu is only a pawn, Mugeuk tells his fellow investigator. If they arrest anyone, it must be Yasuo himself. He renews the oath he swore taking this office, to chase the guilty wherever the trail runs, even if it runs to his own father. And on that word the door bursts open. The Supreme Commander has come to the office unannounced. His father does not come for pleasantries, he comes to warn his son off. "You're not ready to take on the Ghost Fiend," the Cheonma says. "The boy's blade is not yet keen enough to cut such a man down, and killing him is the easy part anyway. Reaching Yasuo's blind spot without dying on the way is where lesser warriors end. Only 2 keys shut down the ghost sorcery: mastering the 9 paths of infernal flames or climbing to a high rung of the divine demon guarding art. Both sit out of reach today, and Yasuo is somehow both the weakest and the strongest of the 8. So stand down. Mugeuk asks the only question that matters. Did you know he was ripping the living hearts out of villagers for his rituals? The Cheonma admits he learned it only recently, and that even so, with the Murim alliance massing like a storm on the horizon, he cannot throw away a weapon as sharp as Yasuo. And that is where father and son part. Mugeuk says it flat and certain. He will kill Yasuo himself, and of all 8 demon lords, Yasuo will be the first to fall. He is bending the future clean in half. Last time the Ghost Fiend outlived them all, this time he goes first. The Cheonma studies his son a long moment, and something yields. "If you're strong enough to take Yasuo out," he says, "you're strong enough to fill the hole he leaves." Still the same path, still walking it together. The next day Mugeuk stands before Yasuo again, tells him he knows about the siphoning, and orders him to stop. Yasuo denies it, then turns cold and warns that if the boy cuts down this respectful little suggestion he will die for it, and breaks into laughter that climbs and climbs. Mugeuk answers with light. The golden aura of the divine demon guarding art floods off him, and he lays his real plan bare. He will not raise a hand against Yasuo. He will simply walk to his father every single morning and beg in the name of the cult for the Ghost Fiend's execution. Yasuo is a creature of appetite. Sooner or later he overreaches, and when he does, the throne's patience runs dry and the order comes down from the top. He already knows how this ends. He only has to wait for the board to turn. Yasuo will not let him go without a game, pulling Mugeuk into a warped illusion realm to weigh his nerve. When the Ghost Fiend asks if the boy fears him, Mugeuk answers with the truth. Yes, that fear is exactly why he chose to work through his father instead of crossing blades. Yasuo only laughs, mocks Chunpa for breaking his back to win this brat's favor, and warns him out the door. Cross my path again and you will never walk back to your world. At a restaurant called the Elegant Lotus, Mugeuk debriefs with Daryong's CEO and offers him something real, true martial instruction from a master who is not Mugeuk himself. Under a crack of thunder he summons that master, and Chunpa steps from the dark, white hair spiked, red scarf, a greatsword on his back, grumbling about being called out like somebody's favorite lapdog. What follows is a slow, stubborn, funny siege. Mugeuk wants the Cleaver Demon of Blood Sky to take Daryong as a personal disciple, and the old warrior scoffs at this runt of a boy and says no, and no again, for no reason but that he does not want to. But Mugeuk keeps working the angle. None of Chunpa's current students are fit to inherit him, and Daryong burns from outside every circle just like the master does. In the end he grinds Chunpa down to a single hour a day and names his price in return. Train this insufferable brat, and I will help lay your oldest grudge to rest for good, meaning the long cold war with the Sword Saint. Then he drops the other shoe. He is leaving the cult for a few months and asks Chunpa to watch over his people while he is gone. Fine, the old man says, and Mugeuk holds that one small word like a treasure, because he has somewhere to be and no one can know. The two paths his father named both sit out of reach, so Mugeuk takes a third his father never mentioned. A hatted traveler with long dark hair arrives in a rain-soaked town under the Red Mountain and recognizes the inn, and the boy serving tables who, in a life already spent, had grown into a man by the time he passed through. The place is booked solid for the Blood God Festival, 10 days out. He has come at exactly the right time. The festival is the one day a year the commander of the Wind River cult leaves his throne, the one day the iron cage lifts off the thunder bell and the divine treasures beneath it. Back home, Daryong wakes with a screaming hangover in Chunpa's own bed, and the master's harshness sands into something almost fatherly. He hands the boy his cleaver, 1,000 swings, no kai. Daryong bleeds and collapses and refuses every offer to quit because his own father once trained under the legendary Cleaver Demon, and all he ever wanted was a warrior's life and one proud thing to look back on. Moved, Chunpa sets him another 1,000, and Daryong later realizes the drill was the exact regimen the master once used to begin his own road. The bond the boy will lean on later is being forged right now, one swing at a time. 5 days out the traveler has his tools ready. A numbing elixir brewed from kai mold root, mandala bloom and white sandalwood, meant to blind the chained guardian whose senses catch everything. He descends toward the cult grounds by night, and a presence like a mountain falling stops him cold. The commander of Wind River himself, a dark silhouette lit blue at the edges, no face, only weight. Mugeuk does not fight. He slips the noose, confirms the guardian is stationed right beside the thunder bell, and folds back into the dark to wait for the festival. When the night comes, the great bell begins to toll and he counts. On the 36th stroke he moves. The elixir does its work, and the shadow step and flash step of the 4 steps of the wind god carry him past the guards and the guardian without a whisper, into a hidden shrine room where a Buddha statue watches the dark. He presses a mechanism buried in its face, the eyes flash, and the truth opens. 2 vials of the pure water of the Crimson Sight, a holy draught handed down through generations of Wind River commanders that, dropped into the eyes, lays bare the workings of the old blood sect sorcery. And Yasuo's ghost arts run straight down that same bloodline, of which the Wind River cult is only the latest heir. Mugeuk tips the water into his own eyes, red blooming across them, and cuts himself loose from the Ghost Fiend's reach. Then he leaves some behind so the theft goes unseen and the commander can still pass the right to his heir, and he is gone on a flash step before the guardian can turn. 2 months after he vanished, he comes back over the wall by night and goes to Chunpa before anyone else knows he has returned. Master, he says, and they drink until the room goes soft. The trip was worth it, he tells him. Another storm is coming, Chunpa warns. Mugeuk half jokes that all he wants is a dead silent, blood-soaked peace, the quiet that only comes once every last one of them kneels. Tread carefully in the succession war, the old man says, one wrong step is the end. Mugeuk answers cool and clear. If he died, Chunpa would simply cross to his brother's side, the only logical move, and the mirror of that other war, brother against brother for the throne, flickers between them. Chunpa does not deny it. Then Mugeuk asks him to drink until sunrise and excuses himself to fetch the perfect side dish for the night. He steps out and his eyes flash red, and the truth behind the little errand lands like a blade sliding home. Tonight he will slay Yasuo, the Ghost Fiend. The crypt swallows the torchlight 2 stairs down. Yasuo descends muttering, sneering at the brazen little runt who dared threaten him, certain the boy is shielded by fear of his old man. At the bottom, on a stone ritual circle, a dark-haired girl lies unconscious. He calls her a poor orphan he took in out of pity, a pupil he means to rear. He does not get to finish the lie. A hand closes on his hat and tears it off. A palm cracks across his face. Mugeuk tells him to be a good boy, and Yaso reels back, screaming the only question that matters. How did you get in here? The wards were perfect. His black shadow technique, a watching field of eyes, misses nothing. It missed a heartbeat. The pure water of the crimson sight dripped into his eyes days ago, showed Mugeuk the one gap in that field, and the shadow step carried him through it before it closed. He does not explain. He only asks about the girl, and when Yaso repeats the orphan story, Mugeuk names him for what he is. A spineless coward who only feels tall when he is ripping the heart out of someone smaller. The fight climbs to a snowy peak. Yaso reminds him that if they ever crossed paths again, the boy would not walk home, and Mugeuk mocks him for needing to plant terror before he can throw a punch. No, his father did not send him. If the Cheonma wanted Yaso dead, the Cheonma would come himself. Then Yaso springs his trap. The mind-soul snare pulls them both into a still tea pavilion built to wring the truth out of a man. Mugeuk feels nothing of its pull but plays along, and while Yaso interrogates the boy who knows far too much about him, the Ghost Fiend lets slip the real plan. He will kill Mugeuk here and let the Cleaver Demon take the fall. Your blood won't be on my hands, foolish boy. Cheonma will claim your life as you reach for his. The pavilion shatters. A wall of ghost light comes screaming across the snow. Mugeuk answers it with gold. The divine demon guarding art blooms around him, and the two powers detonate. But the blast is a lie too, a chorus of whispers crawling into his skull. Kill the Cleaver Demon. The spell wants Cheonma's blood through Mugeuk's hand, and it picks the wrong hand. He has grown fond of the old man, and he has no wish to see him dead, and that refusal is a wall the sorcery cannot climb. He finds the ominous light at the heart of the spell and snuffs it early, and Yaso gapes because the vision is meant to hold until the technique runs its course. So Yaso stacks 3 more. Black wraiths claw up out of the ground, and Mugeuk carves them apart. A black ocean drowns him next, and for one breath he truly fears it, before he remembers the log that tethers him to the real world and shatters the storm. The last snare is the quiet one, a dim room where an old and dying version of himself lies in bed. He knows at once it is a fake, not his future and not the man he was before the regression, yet he sits with it anyway and says a peaceful end, once Mugi Hwa is finally in the ground, would not be so bad. Then he admits the truth. He was never comforting some imagined old man, he was comforting the man he is right now. He breaks free just as a real blade of energy comes for him and splits it clean out of the air. 4 illusions and not one of them held. Yaso can only stare. The Ghost Fiend finally understands. There are only 2 ways to be blind to his sorcery. Master the 9 paths of infernal flames or hold the crimson sight. He accuses the Cheonma of aiming his own son like a knife, and Mugeuk does not deny it. His father hesitated to the last second before he gave the word, but he gave it because Yaso snatched ordinary people off the street and tore the living hearts from their chests to buy himself more years, and no life owes a monster that kind of forgiveness. Then Yaso swears he will erase Mugeuk, kill the Cheonma and take the throne by force, and Mugeuk almost laughs because in all the years of the life he already lived, this coward never once had the spine to say that ambition out loud. Then Yaso changes. The forbidden dark demon arts, the power the cult itself outlaws because it devours its own user, pours out of him. Blue fire lights his eyes and his mouth. His skin darkens into something armored and wrong, and Mugeuk understands the rest in an instant. Every heart Yaso ever stole was a bribe paid to hold this corruption at bay. He was always going to die of it. Tonight only moves up the date. The peak comes apart under them. Mugeuk opens with the sword of the skyward path. The first form through the 5th heaven balances on steel, shifting heavens, dark heaven, blazing heaven. Pierce the skies, and he tears a technique called Fiend Rend across the monster besides. Yaso answers with his own dark grammar. Death Lash, Orb of Eternal Erasure, Shards of Annihilation. The lash alone would have cut Mugeuk into 6 clean pieces if the flickering step had not carried him out of its reach, and nothing lands the way it should. His first form fails to take Yaso's waist. Blazing heaven draws blood and a taunt, and still the thing stands. He unleashes Pierce the Skies, his strongest form, the one that felled a Lord Commander, and it does not take Yaso's head. Both of them freeze in the same second. The fight should be over. It is not. Then the head does come off and the body keeps moving, and Mugeuk finally sees it. The vital core is not where a heart should be. Yaso hid it somewhere else inside that ruined shape, and Mugeuk swears he will find it. He stops chasing the sword and lets the footwork lead. The piercing step of the 4 steps of the wind god folds the distance to nothing, and on that step he draws the 8th form of the sword of the skyward path, blade of the Underspring. The blade goes in low and true, straight through the hidden heart, and the whole storm of ghost light gutters out at once. Yasuo falls back into his human shape, bleeding out, the monster gone from his face. He admits it plainly. Without the 4 steps of the wind god, he would have won today, and he wants to know how a boy came to hold a supreme technique the world lost long ago. Mugeuk, coughing his own blood into the snow, credits heaven for sparing him. And for a moment he lets the Ghost Fiend see it, not the careful mask the cult knows, but the real depth of what he is, spent here where only a dying man will carry it away. Yasuo spends his last breath on a promise. If he is born again, he will hunt Mugeuk down and kill him without fail. Mugeuk does not curse him back. He wishes him a kinder, longer fate next time and hopes he finds another path without losing himself to it, deciding the man's final moment is not worth wasting on spite. The body is laid out in a torchlit chamber, the purple eyes half open and empty. Later alone there are tears on Mugeuk's face. The first of the 8 demon lords has fallen, and the future where Yasuo outlived them all is dead with him. Then he does something very unlike a man who just killed a lord. He shows up at Chinpagu's door with takeout and drink. The old master teases him for taking so long, and over the meal they circle back to their very first lesson, when a small blunt boy flatly refused to say he would lay down his life for his teacher. That bluntness, Cheonma says, is exactly why he took a liking to the brat. Mugeuk pours the first cup himself and toasts him as his left marshal. It moves the old Cleaver more than he lets on, though he grumbles that he would rather have the higher of the 2 titles. They drink until the toasts go crooked, and Cheonma swears the heavenly demon cult is about to become something the world has never seen. The next morning is colder. Mugeuk walks the red carpet of the throne hall to face his father, and the first thing that Cheonma says is a question with a knife in it. How did you kill him? The physician's tidy story, a Kai outburst, does not fool him for a breath. Mugeuk answers with silence, then a shrug. His skill is not sharp enough to fell a demon lord, and Cheonma can swear he was drinking with him all night. His father lets the excuse stand for now and warns him of the real cost. Yasuo's death will not stay quiet. The one thing binding the 8 together is the fear that if one of them can fall, any of them can, and that fear is loose now. He is right. Yeonryongso, the flashing sword saint, greets Mugeuk as sister and asks him straight out whether he had a hand in it. He denies it inside a fishing metaphor that he is not a man who holds heads underwater, only one who casts his line from the shore, while she notes dryly that he has already hooked one rusted cleaver. Yasuo died without naming an heir, so his 5 disciples will soon be carving each other up over the empty seat, and the 2 quietly agree to slip someone friendly into it first. And that night, the rusted cleaver himself pounds on Mugeuk's door, drunk and furious. The other lords have frozen him out of their meeting about the death. They think he and Mugeuk did this together. He turns the accusation on the boy directly and demands the truth, bitter that everyone always assumes the worst of him because he never lets old blood dry before he adds a fresh stain. Mugeuk gives him the truth. He killed the Ghost Fiend. Cheonma goes still, stunned that Mugeuk would trust him with a confession that could hang them both, and Mugeuk tells him that trust is the entire reason he named him left marshal. And the old Cleaver settles it in his own heart. Before he is one of the 8, he is Mugeuk's left marshal, first of all. The wine still sits warm between them when the old Cleaver warns that trust handed out this freely is how a man ends up with a dagger in his back. Does the boy not fear becoming an enemy of the cult's 8 pillars? Mugeuk answers with arithmetic, calm as a clerk. With Yasuo dead there are 7. Take away Cheonma 6, take away the Sword Saint halfway onto his side 5.5. And if his master and the Sword Saint each carry their share, the number he truly faces is closer to 4. For one glorious second Cheonma's face goes white, certain the brat has quietly killed 3 more demon lords before the math catches up. Then he lays down the oldest law of the 8. They do not raise blades against one another, a rule older than the boy himself. And do not put blind faith in me, he adds, people do not betray you. Circumstances do. Mugeuk means to use trust as a tool anyway against Cheonma most of all. The next morning the Cheonma tells his son to leave the sect a while and inspect 8 Xuanxian's distant branches. Mugeuk sees through it. His father is trying to move him out of range, but leaving now with the 8 already circling would only sharpen the suspicion. So his father tells him the rest. The demon lords have summoned the outside world to read the body. Yasuo's ghost sorcery runs down through the Dead Blood sect straight to the Wind River cult, whose commander can name a killer from a corpse alone. I already believe it was you, his father says, and the commander will see it too. If the man can read a corpse, he might read the pure water of the crimson sight sitting in a young man's eyes. For breath Mugeuk weighs cutting the commander down before he arrives until Cheonma kills the thought. Spill that blood and you light a war with the Murim alliance, with the Dark Alliance running in to feast on the scraps. So Mugeuk lies to his father's face, and his father's real fear surfaces. It was never the revenge of the Eight. It was the chance his reckless second son would kill the Wind River commander himself. Never touch that man. Mugeuk protests his innocence, and only he can hear the truth beneath it. He knows everything about the commander already from a life he has walked once before, and the man his father so fears has quietly become his own personal treasure vault, waiting to be opened. There is a gap in his armor, and he means to close it. Only two ways exist to hide the crimson sight in his eyes: remake his flesh and marrow whole, or change only the eyes. He chooses the eyes. He comes to the demon physician with rare herbs and asks for the art of the transcendent eye, a lost procedure that sharpens a warrior's sight to its peak, untroubled by glare, dark, murky water, or smoke. The healer knows it, a right so rare its one ingredient allows it perhaps once a century, and one that Mugeuk's own father once turned down. The physician's price: when the boy becomes the next Cheonma, he will grant the old man a single wish, whatever it turns out to be. Mugeuk agrees before he is told what it is, because he already knows the physician begged this favor from his father for years and was refused, and a favor a Cheonma refuses is always one that settles a debt in blood. Later the healer tells him the truth beneath the bargain. He has spent his whole life saving others as a penance paid in advance, atoning for the one life he still means to take. And he asks Mugeuk to strike that person down in his place, once the mantle is his. Mugeuk agrees without asking the name. "I trust you," he says. The rite is not gentle. He lies bare on the ritual platform, needles through his scalp and face, and swears that if the healer is gone before that day, he will still finish it, and whisper that the demon physician sends his regards as the blade goes home. He wakes changed. He can read tiny script in near dark, stare into the sun without blinking, spot a single ant on a branch a courtyard away. Today the old man says, "Your eyes have been reborn." His fate, Mugeuk thinks, has been knotted to the Wind River cult from the start. Soon after a meditation he believes lasts hours turns out to have run 3 full days, with Enli going hungry rather than break his trance, and his kai flows smoother for it. Then the outside world comes to the gate. Paso Noong, supreme commander of the Wind River cult, arrives at the heavenly demon palace with the 10 great demons and a crimson guard of 100, to pay his respects to Lord Cheonma after more than 10 years apart. He is a mountain of a man, tawny hair streaked red, full beard, a dragon inked across him. He has perfected the demonic kai of heavenly calamity, and he is the undisputed overlord of the outer murim, his Wind River once a rival to the heavenly demon cult back when it went by the name of the Blood Sect. He does not stop for pleasantries. He goes straight to the body, and with him comes Ravan Geo, the demon Buddha, the 8th of the cult's own demon lords, bald and beaded and robed in saffron. Ravan reads the corpse that same night, and what he finds turns the room cold. The 8 extraordinary meridians torn through, the heart burst from within by a violent outrush of kai. The marks of a man who threw his forbidden ghost arts wide open and died fighting a phantom inside his own mind world. Which means someone walked into the Order of the Western Spirits, beat Yaso on the one ground where he could never lose, and left without a footprint. Ravan names his first suspect to the Cheonma's face, the Lord's second-born son, and the Cheonma's composure cracks. The next day Paso comes to Mugeuk himself, warm and unhurried, and under the pleasant talk he slips a thread of his own kai toward the young man's eyes, red and searching, hunting for any trace of the crimson sight. He finds nothing. The art of the transcendent eye has given Mugeuk wholly new eyes with no stain left to catch, and Mugeuk feels the old, unwelcome thing again. From before the regression until now this man has done him kindness after kindness he never asked for, and even suspected. He cannot bring himself to hate him. Then Ravan delivers the verdict that saves his life. He found no link between the boy and the killing, and no technique in his hands near the caliber needed to beat Yaso inside his own domain. This is not the butcher we seek. Paso presses him. "Swear it on your oath." Ravan bows his head, sorry to have tested an old friend's trust, and swears his finding stands firm. Paso leaves Mugeuk with real warmth, and then, alone with no one left to perform for, his face goes dark and he asks the empty air the one question he still carries. "Did you kill him, Mugeuk?" Cheonma brings the news like a gift. "Your name is clean for now, and no alibi is tighter than a night spent drinking with me." But some of the 8 are not swallowing the story, and the demon Buddha of all people is the most skeptical. That night the moon is full and Mugeuk feels the weight arrive before the voice. Paso Noong, uninvited, drops the courtesy. He does not believe the tidy story of a kai outburst. The corpse told him the truth, that Yaso died sealed inside a space his own ghost arts had raised, his power turned back on himself. And Paso is certain the hand behind it was Mugeuk's. He has no proof. He offers his silence toward the other lords as goodwill, staged so the boy never forgets he owes a favor for it. Mugeuk takes the offer apart. With no proof, there was never a real accusation to bury, so there is nothing to be grateful for. And being suspected out loud would have served him anyway, letting the demon lords fear the second son had secretly inherited his father's 9 paths of infernal flames, easing his path to the throne. If you want to offer me true goodwill, he tells the commander, next time make it a real favor, not a cheaply gilded token. Paso says nothing and goes. Far from the palace, the commander goes to the one counselor he trusts, and that counselor is a prisoner. Gaunt and bare-chested, long black hair over his face, an iron collar and wrist shackles, allowed 5 insolent remarks a day and no more. He curses Paso even as he answers. I already asked Death, he says, and Death told me I outlive you by a good long while. Paso unlocks the chains and takes him outside, and in a real meadow the man rolls through the flowers like a freed animal, because wherever Paso keeps him, he insists there is no true sky at all. Paso keeps this insolent creature because his counsel has never once been wrong, and because pain cannot break a man with nothing left to lose. Then the strategist earns his keep. The Cheonma surely knows his son killed the Ghost Fiend, or chose not to look, since Yaso was the Murim Alliance's oldest thorn and no loss to a father with plans. Which points to Eugene Geom's real design. He is hollowing out his own 8 demon lords one by one, refilling the seats with men loyal only to him, sharpening the cult toward the day he turns his blade on the alliance itself. So Wind River must choose: shelter behind the surviving 8 or bind itself to Lord Geom's young dragonling. The strategist argues for the dragonling, since a man as formidable as Eugene Geom would never stake his banner on a fight he could not win, and the son is cut from the same cloth. Offer the boy tribute, he says, and make it something you would truly hate to give up. Paso takes the advice. That night he returns to Mugeuk and instead of talking indoors, seizes the space around them both. The world folds with a rush of air, and the two stand in the middle of his own homeland. A waste buried in snow. There he places a secret manual in Mugeuk's hands. The space translocation technique, one of the rarest of the true demon arts of the Blood Sect, an art that conjures a private pocket world out of nothing. Step into that pocket world a second time, he warns, and you vanish from the ordinary one entirely, a door meant only for the last, most desperate escape. And now that Yaso is dead, no one alive but Paso can wield it to the full. Mugeuk asks him straight, what do you want out of it? Paso confesses he is sick of choking on his homeland's dust and wants to drive Wind River into the heart of the continent, and has already arranged to put the request to the Cheonma 2 days from now. Mugeuk tells him he is going about it the wrong way. His father will never let Wind River plant itself in the heartlands as a rival, and asking would only make him look weak before the whole cult. Take the crooked road instead. Yaso's Order of the Western Spirits is leaderless now, its disciples soon at each other's throats over the empty seat. Slide in as mentor to whoever wins it, and Wind River has its foothold without ever drawing a blade. Back home, Paso frets he has thrown away a supreme technique for nothing, and the chained strategist guesses the Western Spirit's plan out of thin air before he can finish complaining. Ride the momentum, the prisoner tells him. But there is no telling what poisoned ambition the Cheonma's son carries inside him, and Paso cuts him off. That is enough. Later, alone, the chained man begins to glow, and a presence with no name calls him "O Lord" and invites him to ask whatever he wishes to know, and the question hangs there, unspoken. Mugeuk does not wait to be taught twice. Alone in a dark hall, he pours himself into the new art, and after strange tides of teal and violet, he opens his eyes on an empty pocket world of his own making. It worked in 4 hours when Lord Noong swore it would cost even a genius several days. Once more his hidden strength grows a size, and once more no one is there to see it. Meanwhile, Raven Geo calls on Paso by night. The second son may well rise as the new son, he allows, but his brother is the man they will serve, and he backs that firstborn on nothing but a gut feeling, telling Paso to go home to his own cult, which stings the commander into snapping that he will not be treated like a beast that answers a bell. Then Paso turns to the one voice he trusts. Raven is nervous, the chained man reports. He has caught on to your plan to throw in with Mugeuk, and the board is brutally simple. Of all the 8, only Chinpagu has openly stood at the boy's side, the rest lean toward the elder brother or sit on their hands. It is the same old story the cult keeps bending toward, 2 sons of one father circling a single throne. Pressed to commit or stay buried beyond the pass, hounded over the art he gave away for nothing, Paso finally cracks and roars into the dark. I said no, but the pressure does not lift. That night he turns up at a modest tavern he keeps returning to, the Elegant Lotus. He is not the only great man drawn to this town. Mugeuk is here too, and to him this place, the Demon Hollow, is the root of his whole demon way, its people dearer to him than the Wind River commander and all 8 demon lords put together. He proves it in the street. A drunk brute strikes a mother and knocks down the father who steps in front of her, snarling that they dared to eyeball him while their small child cries. An unseen force flings the brute across the market. "That was my doing," Mugeuk says, stepping out, so the child would not watch his father shamed any further. The enraged man swings and is beaten bloody while the crowd gasps to recognize the young master among them. "Take him to the pavilion," Mugeuk orders, "and dig up every crime he has ever committed." The street breaks into cheering. Praise Chief Overseer Cheonma, and afterward Paso comes to him quietly. "You said evil has no place on our shadowed path." "Did you mean it?" Mugeuk answers with silence. Over more wine, Paso circles back to the question and Mugeuk slides past it. Then the commander asks the thing he came to ask. "Have you tried to raise a mind space with the technique I gave you?" Mugeuk tells him he managed it on his very first attempt in the better part of 4 hours, and Paso goes still, because he would have called that a lie from any other mouth alive. Then he lays his real trouble on the table. Ravan Geo is maneuvering to have him expelled back to the outer murim, afraid of what a Paso and a Mugeuk might become together, and he needs the boys' help to invent a reason to stay in the Heartlands. Mugeuk names his price, and it is not a simple trade. After a long silence, Paso agrees to let him choose one treasure from a box he has brought. First, he shows Mugeuk what is not on offer: the Wind River cult's sacred thunder bell and its blood brazier. Gazing up at the vast carved bell, Mugeuk feels something malevolent stir inside it and murmur, "You again," as though it still remembers a thief from a festival night. And kneeling beside it as its keeper is the same chained, long-haired man from the commander's dark hall. Paso calls him nothing but an underling set to guard the bell, and Mugeuk does not believe a word of it. The man does not carry himself like anyone's servant and never once defers to Paso the way a true subordinate would. When Mugeuk lifts a small case from the box, Paso's hand twitches as if to stop him, then opens instead and lets him have it. And Mugeuk understands why. The chained man spoke to his lord in that half-second through a thread of Kai, pushing his own will into Paso's decision at the one moment that mattered. The case holds the Blood God Pill, the single greatest treasure the Wind River cult has ever brewed, saved for an hour worthy of it. But first, the commander says, "Tell me how I am to remain in the Heartlands." "This is the way," Mugeuk answers. And instead of handing the pill across, he swallows it himself and asks Paso to stand guard while it dissolves into his veins. The commander barely has time to react before the young man is swallowed whole in a roaring surge of red fire. The Overlord of the Outer Murim came to the Heavenly Demon Palace to unmask a killer. He leaves it with his rarest art given away, his greatest treasure burning in that killer's own veins, and his strange chained counselor already marked as something Mugeuk means one day to have. The board turns one quiet square at a time, and of every man seated at it, only one already knows how the whole game ends. The Blood God Pill is already inside him. Mugeuk sits cross-legged in the heart of Wind River territory and lets its power circulate, crimson energy coiling off his shoulders in slow, patient waves. Paso Noon watches him do it. Beside Paso kneels the strange, chained figure who never leaves his side, the confidant bound to him by a mutual death oath. The chained one all but dares Paso to end the boy right now, purring about the war it would start, about the great Cheonma tearing his reckless guest apart. Paso raises a hand wreathed in flame over the meditating figure and his arm shakes and he cannot bring it down. He falls back cursing because some part of him already grasps what the rest of the Outer Murim has not. This is not a young man he can afford to strike. When the last of the pill settles, Mugeuk opens his eyes and bows. He thanks Lord Noong for the gift, as if the greatest elixir in the Outer Murim were a party favor freely handed over. Then he proposes the real trick. Let Paso file a false report at the Hwangshan Pavilion claiming a priceless treasure was stolen. The theft that never happened hands Mugeuk an official reason to stay on Wind River land for as long as he pleases, investigating a crime he invented. At the Heavenly Demon Palace, his father tells him Paso came in person, and that a rift is opening between the Wind River Lord and the 8 demon lords, who summoned Paso like a servant and wounded his pride. Mugeuk keeps his face blank. Inwardly he measures how far the board has shifted from the life he remembers, where Paso Noon never reached the Heartlands at all, where he died forgotten in the outer wastes after Mugi Hwa's blood tides swallowed everything. That man is standing inside the cult's own gates now. The regressor has already changed his fate and Paso does not know it. The demon Buddha at least smells the con. Ravan Geo comes to press Mugeuk about the break-in, openly guessing Paso staged the robbery of his own vault, certain that a man that proud would only call in person on someone he has already marked as the sect's true heir. He resolves to keep Paso close, a guest who is really a hostage, and warn him to hold his tongue. Mugeuk lets him believe it. Even the sharpest men at this table keep reading the surface and missing the depth. Then the real game shows its shape. Daryong brings word of the fight everyone actually cares about, the succession for Yasuo's empty seat among the 8, the vacant chair of the Ghost Fiend. 2 of the dead lord's disciples want it. Du Yang, the eldest, holds seniority, raw strength, and a vicious streak that has already cost several of his own order their lives. Xian Cheng, the 3rd disciple, is young, and she has the one thing Du Yang lacks, the loyalty of everyone beneath them. Mugeuk has already fed Lord Nung a full dossier on both, precisely to bait him into the succession war. Then Daryong drops the thread that turns the whole thing over. Xian Cheng has been meeting in secret with Yuzhong of the Northblade clan, the same Yuzhong who once tried and failed to murder the bewitched sword saint. Mugeuk reads it in a heartbeat. The 2 are lovers, and Xian Cheng was the informant all along, the one who exposed the pit of bodies beneath Yasuo's rituals and planted Nunghyu's ghost fan at the scene. She sold out her own master, the Ghost Fiend himself, the moment Yuzhong's obsession with Yeonryong turned dangerous. The woman poised to inherit Yasuo's seat is the woman who dug his grave. From there, Mugeuk and Yeonryong so work the pieces without ever seeming to touch them. Paso, nudged by his chained confidant, settles on backing Xian over her stronger senior, and Mugeuk offers to deliver her, promising Xian will come begging for Lord Nung's tutelage in trade for another hoarded treasure. At Yeonryong's bamboo estate, over wine that Yuzhong himself is made to pour, Mugeuk plants the idea aloud. Xian can close the gap on Du Yang by training under the Wind River Lord, which also hands Paso the foothold in the heartlands he has coveted for years. Yeonryong corners Yuzhong in private. She knows about Xian and that his ambitions run far deeper than anyone guessed, and rather than kill him for it, she chooses to use the bond instead. That night, Yuzhong meets Xian in the forest and does the rest himself, warning that Du Yang will cast her aside or worse if he wins, steering her toward Lord Nung's teaching. He means every word and none of it. Behind his eyes, he is already planning to rule through her, riding the Ghost Fiend's power from the shadows until the day he finally makes the Sword Saint his own. So Xian goes to Paso, invokes their shared blood sect roots and kneels. "Take me as your disciple, great lord." Paso, delighted by the simmering malice in her, takes her in. By now, Paso is unsteady for another reason. When the demon Buddha tries to shame Wind River with scraps and swill at its men's table, Mugeuk has already sent cooks to lay a feast before the insult can land. And Paso, a man born to take and not to give, is left stunned by the courtesy. Mugeuk keeps bleeding him regardless. He strolls into the treasury, points at a wrapped bundle at random, and walks out with the supreme heaven-spun silk, a fabric almost impervious to blade, cold, and flame, playing the lucky fool the whole time. Only Chenpa says the quiet part, warning that Paso is an overlord dragged here against his will, and that if his loyalists ever answered his call, the whole continent could burn. Why Xian Cheng, he asks. Because she was the easiest to move, Mugeuk answers, and Du Yang and Xian are the same in substance anyway, neither yet anything a demon lord should be. The scale of what Mugeuk hides starts to show its edges. Between the demon essence pill, the divine pill of the heavens, and the blood god pill now folded into him, his raw kai has quietly outgrown the 8 demon lords themselves. He and Chenpa call on Yeonryong together, all 3 pretending the meeting was not arranged, and she reveals the catch. The demon Buddha has asked her to back Du Yang. A vacant seat is decided by a majority of the remaining 7, and Xian needs 4 votes. Mugeuk's candidate and Yeonryong's own make only 2, so Chenpa and Yeonryong each agree to turn one more lord. Meanwhile, the man in chains keeps working Paso from the inside, telling him to dismantle the 8-1 seat at a time with patience and bribes, which is only another way of saying pour everything into Mugeuk. When Raven Geo pressures Paso to abandon Xian and slip quietly away, Paso does the exact opposite and swears he will put Mugeuk on the throne no matter what it takes. Then the vote ties, one lord pulling his hand back at the last, and the table hands down its verdict. Du Yang and Xian Cheng will settle the seat in a duel. Mugeuk tells Daryong to wager everything he owns on Xian, because it is really a bet on how desperate Lord Nung has become, and Daryong sprints off to pawn his own house deed before anyone can stop him. On the appointed day, the arena stands already storm-torn, the dignitaries seated, Xian waiting in white inside her palanquin, Mugeuk and Paso watching in silence. Du Yang spits that she is a craven witch, that she turned her back on their dead master and dragged his name through the mud to go begging a new one. Then he transforms, a dark demon art tearing loose, and lunges. The arena fills with screaming blood-red shapes, ghost after ghost howling out of the empty air, and Xian Cheng answers with something worse. Her own art rises in a tide of red spectral hands, and they close over Du Yang and eat him alive again and again, until the last howl dies and the winner is decided. She kneels before the 8. I, Seonchung, present myself before the great demon lords. They name her the new master of the Order of the Western Spirits. Yaso's chair sits empty no longer. The Ghost Fiend's seat is filled, and it belongs to a woman Mugeuk chose, groomed, and delivered into it without ever lifting a blade. Asked what the killing spell was, she only smiles and credits a demon art from her new master and never says his name. The seat is won, and Mugeuk is already looking past it. Over a quiet meal he coaches Paso on how to sell Sion to the Cheonma, since to his father power is the only currency that spends. Then he does the small, dangerous thing he came for. He asks to pour a cup for the man in chains. Paso flinches and insists the shackled one cannot touch wine, and the shackled one takes the cup anyway, and Paso's face gives everything away. There is a raw nerve in that bond, wordless and old, the same fraught silence Mugeuk has watched between the Cleaver Demon and the Sword Saint. He apologizes for overstepping. He has already found exactly what he was probing for. One more square has turned on the board, and the empty seat that opened this whole game now answers to the only man at the table who never once wondered how it would end. He set the pieces himself, and all that is left is to watch the Overlord of the Outer Murim place them right where he has always known they must go. The morning after the cup, Paso Nung's fury finally breaks over the man in chains. He had said it plainly that his shackled counselor has no taste for wine, and the wretch drank Mugeuk's anyway. Lie, curse, scream, Paso demands, only give me the grand excuse now. The shackled man says nothing, so Paso answers for him. A blast of blood-red fire roars across the cell, and when the smoke clears, the Overlord of the Outer Murim stands over his oldest confidant and condemns him to it. This place suits you? From now on these hollow eyes will see nothing else. The chained man bows in the wreckage. My judgment failed me, my lord, I beg your forgiveness. And Paso, who came to punish, sinks instead into a guilt he cannot name, while the prisoner mourns to himself that the two of them will never speak openly again. That same night, Mugeuk climbs to the Cleaver Demon's book-lined study, needling the young swordsman drilling forms in the dark on his way in, and lays his wand on the table. He means to free a man from his yoke, Paso's chained strategist, and without Paso knowing. He admits the two of them have not traded a single word, only that he believes their hearts already sit on the same page. Chinpagu offers the simple road with a grin, kill Paso. One stroke removes a rival and drops the strategist in his lap. Mugeuk refuses. My sword is not meant for Paso's neck. The man is not evil enough to earn a death without trial. Then says the old butcher, you must make the strategist come to you on his own. Show him your truest reflection, the one that lives in the people around you, your own bed of hearts, and if what you are is real, he will not be able to stop himself from offering his. That is the whole play. Cheonma agrees to gather the rest of the pack that very night, not for the prisoner's sake, he insists, but to see for himself the reflection Mugeuk has grown into. Across the estate, Paso kneels alone before the vast carved thunderbell and lets the despair out. If he cannot win the heart of one single man, how can he dream of the heartlands? They bow their lips to him and laugh behind their teeth. And then the shackled man says his name, Paso, out loud, the first time in longer than either can remember, and the commander freezes as if struck. He demands to know why the prisoner drank the boy's cup. Because I read his heart, comes the answer, no, I felt it. The dragonling wants me. Paso explodes, accusing him of aping the dead Ghost Fiend's art, then hears the real shape of his own rage. He is frightened of the parting he can feel coming. I would sooner see you dead than let you go, he swears, and the chained man dares him to do it now while he still can, because once I decide to live, no hand on earth will put me down. Fire answers, and in the ash the commander refuses to let his counselor flee this wretched world alone. So the prisoner turns the knife the other way. Then let us not part at all. Back the boy for the throne together, both of us, since Mugeuk would gladly raise Wind River's hall snug against his own wall. Paso scoffs that the cold, calculating sneak would never agree to a thing so generous, and a servant cuts him off at the door. The second young master has come, he has brought 5 more with him. Mugeuk kept his companions in the dark on purpose, wanting them to meet the master of the Outer Murim raw and unwarned. Paso greets the cohort with open warmth, and the table turns into a quiet reckoning of just how far the boy's reach now runs. Cheonma names himself Mugeuk's folded left wing, startling even Yeonryong so with the private wing talk, and Paso lets slip that his own disciple has climbed into the Supreme Eight, the seat won by a full vote. The Cleaver Demon whipped into line, while the Sword Saint only managed an abstention. Then Mugeuk sets his people before the 2 overlords one by one. Ho Jang, Lord Commander of the whole Demon Guard. Daryong Seo, the investigator the cult already whispers is his right hand. and in Lee whom he names simply what keeps me going, and then before them all his beating heart, telling her in the same breath that being treasured never once meant she owed him her life on a platter. Paso answers with his own right arm, the silent chained man seated at the foot of the great bell, kept bound, he says, because the moment he looks away the man would drift out of the world like thistledown in autumn. And Lee crosses to the prisoner and pours him a cup and asks if he is the bell's guardian. It began that way, he tells her, his first words to any of them, but now the bell guards me, and you are a little like me. Your young master shields you now where once you shielded him. Paso tests the boy the only way his pride allows. He pours a cup laced through with his own kai, the kind of thing only a true master can lift without the porcelain bursting in his fingers, and Mugeuk drinks it down like water. It is not possible, the commander thinks, does his cultivation run deeper than my own? Mugeuk returns the courtesy, charging a cup of his own, and Paso, unable to refuse without shrinking in front of every guest, empties it in one swallow and praises the vintage far too loudly. Later the chained man tells him the truth of it. The boy showed you mercy. He wrapped the cup in kai so as not to shame you at your own table, and even then he held back the whole depthless flood of what he carries. Cheonma grumbles that Mugeuk should have simply crushed Paso outright and shown the real gap between them, and Mugeuk answers that a wound to that pride would only ripen into a darker harvest down the road. When the bickering of the old fox and the vixen finally wears Paso thin, he throws Cheonma and the sword saint out and turns to the boy alone. His cult will spare nothing to see Mugeuk seated on the heavenly demon throne. To prove he has shed the grasping man he used to be, he throws open his hall of divine relics. Take your pick of anything inside these walls. Mugeuk asks for the shackles. Paso rounds on him, certain he means the man himself, off the table end of it, until the boy makes it plain he wants only the chains, the cold eternal steel, and nothing else. Torn, Paso reaches for his counselor through a thread of kai, and the prisoner, moved by some strange new picture of himself running free through an open field, counsels his lord to refuse, for your sake, not mine. Paso overrules him. A promise is a promise. He shatters the lock with his own hand and gives the broken chains across, and the freed man asks only that a fan be forged from the metal. Then Mugeuk gives the rest to Commander Jang with an order. Beat the remaining steel into 8 daggers, 1 for every soul here tonight, and the room goes still as they count and land on 8, the tally that folds in both Paso Nung and the shackled man. Paso takes his blade like a keepsake of the day, and Mugeuk tells them plainly what the steel is. Everything they have been, and everything they have done for him, hammered into something he can hold. At the next night's banquet the fracture finally shows. Paso asks how the boy would run the cult if the mantle fell to him, and Mugeuk answers that rule takes a soft hand and a gaze keen enough to read the hearts of the ruled, and that he declines any loyalty not freely given. Paso slams the table so hard the dishes shatter. He has heard that humble, gentle manner before out of the mouth of his own prisoner, and he calls it a third-rate act, a powdered performance meant to succor fools. Mugeuk warns him softly that the chained man watches him and him alone, and uses that very pretense to draw him off. Rattled, the strategist begs Lord Nung's pardon for his conduct before Mugeuk and the 2 demon lords and withdraws for the night, and alone with his wine he admits the thing that has been eating him. In every report on the heavenly demon cult that ever crossed his desk, he never once predicted a single move the boy made. Not the fall of the demon guard's head, not the death of the Ghost Fiend, not the Cleaver Demon bending the knee, not tonight, the boy walking in with his entire pack at his back. Then Paso comes to him in private and lays bare why he chained him in the first place, the old fear that one day the man might kill him, or force his hand to do the killing. The prisoner calls it nothing but instinct, calls him a slave to his own habits, and then says the thing that has been coming all along. He means to leave Wind River, and he asks Paso to lay down his title and walk out at his shoulder. Paso refuses in a fury. He will not surrender a throne where his word alone can end a life and every want is answered before it is spoken. So the chained man asks, quiet as a closing door, "Are you happy now?" The question hangs there and will not leave. Paso insists he is happy, then turns and rages that the man is bent on his ruin, twisting every word to leave him as wretched as he can be made, and the prisoner only says, "Perhaps I am," and lets him storm out cursing. But when Paso comes back, he comes to surrender. "You win, I free you because I can no longer stand the sight of you." He strikes the shackles off in a burst of light, and a forged spare key falls from the broken links, a key the man has carried all this while and never used. He never ran with it, never turned it into a blade against his master's throat. For reasons, he says, not far from the reasons Paso never killed him despite all the curses. "There is no one under this sky who knows you better than I," Paso says, and the freed man says the same runs the other way. Then he kneels and thanks his lord for letting him go without a single condition, proof that the good man he first followed is still in there somewhere, and vows to wait for the day their roads cross again before the door claps shut behind him. That night he sits cross-legged on a rooftop under the open air he was so long denied, and Mugeuk finds him there and asks before anything else, "How fares your ankle?" The man marvels that the boy eludes him even now, leading with worry where courtesy was expected. He offers his story in return. He once climbed to the 7th stage of the fist discipline of Fist Master Seong Yang, one of the 19 supremes of the Outer Murim. And then at last he gives the boy his name. "My name is Go-Wol." "A fine name," Mugeuk tells him. "The Lone Moon." He asks Go-Wol to be his strategist and swears that when he takes the Cheonma's throne, the man will be chief strategist of the whole heavenly demon cult, a seat he will not be handed but must earn. Go-Wol swears it back on his life and his honor with the great spirits of heaven and earth for witness, and Mugeuk names him on the spot, "Warrior Go-Wol, my chief strategist," and gives him the vow that binds them. "May you be the moon to my sun, my guiding light through day and night." Go-Wol's first task is a kingdom of whispers. "Weave a net of eyes and ears the length of the continent," Mugeuk tells him, "wide enough to overshadow Tongchen, the cult's own intelligence arm, and he backs it with writs worth 1,000,000 taels of silver, joking that if the lone moon runs off with the fortune he will melt every fan and dagger it buys into fresh ankle irons and hand him back to the one soul who loathes him most." But the strategist's real first move is aimed at the man he left behind. He needles Paso in the open, calls him a shadow in iron, impressively useless, and lets the commander mistake it for cruelty, because Eugene Geom's hunger will one day swallow Wind River whole and drown Paso in the merging waters unless the boy pulls him under his wing first. Even Mugeuk half doubts him for it, wondering in private whether Go-Wol can truly be trusted or is only building a bridge for his own crossing. Then Go-Wol goes to Paso alone and tells him the truth. The lie about Mugeuk pitting the two of them against each other was bait, his own bait, a trap to catch a soft heart. Paso rages and breaks, screaming until his voice cracks, and the strategist says gently, "Now you are more like the man I remember." Paso confesses the whole weight of it, a grandfather's wish and a father's pointing hand that shoved Wind River's storm ever deeper into lands he never wanted, a life with no thrill and no joy anywhere in it. "Come thread your life onto a different weave," Go-Wol tells him, "a dangerous one, a thrilling one, the two of us together." Moved past speaking, Paso says only, "Send for Mugeuk." And when the boy has gone, Go-Wol confesses the thing beneath the scheme. "It was my dearest hope to give Lord Noong the gift of a new life." Unseen at the threshold, Paso hears it and something in him buckles. "He did all of this for me." So Mugeuk names the price out loud, and it is the whole of it. "Yield your seat to a successor and come to us. It is not your cult I want, Lord Noong. It is you, the man buried under that crushing mantle." Paso balks. He cannot mean it, throw the title aside and simply walk. "I do," the boy says, and he gives him the length of a single stick of incense to decide whether to abdicate the throne of Wind River itself. Paso storms off to the great bell and strikes it 6 ringing times and roars the boy's name into the dark Mugeuk Geom. He asks, half laughing, whether joining might at least win him the coveted right hand, and Mugeuk refuses him flat. "That place is Daryong's. You would line up behind Commander Jang and climb for rank like anyone else." Alone with Go-Wol beneath the idol he has served his whole life, Paso confesses that he dreads the empty road ahead, that he is bone-tired of the cold judgment of the boy's people, that he finds his own strength and shine only in this one man's company, and that giving up a throne for something so small and personal makes him a selfish creature. "It is reason enough," Go-Wol tells him, "because it means I am setting out to watch over you. They may end as discarded relics, as beggars in a ditch," and Paso swears he would be happy either way so long as they both draw breath, and the two of them promise to be an arch that holds the other up. Then Paso walks to the thunder bell one last time and bids it farewell, and at last he curses the whispering demon carved into its face. "Oh, shut up. I have had enough of you, you demon bastard." And he throws his head back and laughs free, and the alliance that binds the overlord of the Outer Murim to Mugeuk is sealed. Paso gathers his people and goes, bowing to the Cheonma alone and sparing the 8 demon lords not a glance, off to settle his succession before he returns to his new nest. Go-Wol thanks the boy for hearing him out, and Mugeuk gives the credit back because it was the strategist's eye that delivered him Paso Noong, the unrivaled master of the Outer Murim, a man not one of the 8 would dare to meet head-on. Then he hands the lone moon his charge. When the commander comes back gone soft on comfort, reforge him body and mind. "Consider it done, good master." And with the Outer Murim folded quietly into his hand, Mugeuk goes to his father. The Cheonma is bent over a go-board alone, and the boy teases him about the blade he keeps signaling Uncle HWI to draw whenever a game turns against him, and sits down to play. Over the stones, a quiet thought moves through him that these small things, the hunts and the feasts and the games, are phantoms out of a life he already lived and lost. That he cannot say why a plain bond between a father and a son once felt impossible, or why his father's gaze once turned his blood to ice. He wins the match? Startled, the Cheonma asks when he learned the game, and Mugeuk says he took it up after hearing his father studied under chief strategist Myeong. Then, without warning, the Cheonma seizes the stones with a technique the boy knows too well, void seizing, and stands, and calls him to a real bout with live steel. If you have let your training rot while you played the politician, you do not walk out of this hall alive. What follows shakes the walls. Mugeuk lights the golden divine demon guarding art and moves through the 4 steps of the wind god, the piercing step, the shadow step, and his father answers with the sword of the skyward path. Heaven balances on steel, shifting heavens, blazing heaven, until the clash tears across the chamber in a single roaring bloom of force. And in the middle of it, Mugeuk feels something he did not expect, a rare and honest joy pouring off the old man, his heavenly demon blade humming softly to itself, and understands for a heartbeat the loneliness of being the strongest thing alive. Father, he pleads, I am still your son, not a threat you need to erase. We will leave it there, the Cheonma says at last. You have come a long way. Only later does the boy name what the duel truly was, a test of the training he let slip while he worked Wind River. Punishment turned to reward the moment his father saw how far he had climbed, and from it he takes the one thing he came for, a breakthrough that finally puts the map to the grand 12-star completion of the skyward path in his hands, a summit he has not yet reached. Then he asks the old man to supper at a little place in the Demon Hollow, and the Cheonma, pleased and caught off guard, asks if he really may, and the two of them walk off together. They wander the night market side by side, and the boy who never dreamed he would get to do a thing so ordinary watches his father resist and then given over a single set of matching training robes, and then insist on paying for them himself because the boy is buying dinner. At the tavern, the owner is beside himself to finally meet the good master's kin, and the old cook shakes so badly on learning whose father this is that Mugeuk has to promise, laughing, that the man will not kill anyone over a poor meal. Over the food, the boy admits he tried to pull Wind River loose from the 8 demon lords, to hand Paso a small pavilion in the Heartlands, and his father cracks his chopsticks down on the table. Not possible. He has let the lords keep their secret pact with Wind River on purpose, he says, because the day they learn he was only ever letting them play would break something in them. And a shaken 8 is far easier to move against, on whichever side he pleases. When the hour is right. It is not yet. Mugeuk lets it lie and says only that he will settle Wind River his own way as a matter of hearts and minds, never chasing loyalty with coin, never taking a word at its face, never fool enough to think he can win every heart, only building trust enough that he need not trade in lies, and never holding back his faith from a soul that has earned it. Leave Lord Noon to me, his father tells him, I will give you an ending you like and come back next month for game. And walking out into the dark, what pleases the boy most is not the market or the robes or the meal. It is the sight of his father reaching for his own robe without needing to be told. The board is nearly set now. The regressor has folded the overlord of the outer murim into his hand, forged his circle out of cold iron and colder secrets, and started up the last road toward a summit no man in the cult has ever touched. And he still carries the one advantage no soul at the table suspects. He already knows how this ends. He is only waiting for the rest of them to arrive. Under a full moon, 2 blades sing through a bamboo grove and neither of them speaks. Mugeuk and the sword saint drive each other across the dark until both stand heaving and spent, and Yeonryong so laughs that he has improved yet again. He tells her the plain truth of why he trains so hard, only to stay worthy of standing across from her, and asks to remain her sparring partner until time has worn both their fangs dull. Then he presses a flawless night pearl into her hand, a small thanks for all her quiet support, and she calls him a scoundrel born to break 100 hearts and warns him to spend his youthful folly now, while the years still forgive it. Later he goes looking for Go-Wol and finds his rooms empty and tracks the lone moon to the Cleaver Demon, sitting alone outside in the night. When Mugeuk asks after family, Cheonma calls it just another word for a man's worst enemy, and then he lays the thing bare. Ravan Geo, the demon Buddha, has ridden out to the borderlands to bring back Mugeuk's elder brother, who has secretly passed a trial fierce enough to rewrite his fate, and once it is known, seal his claim as the Cheonma's successor. Mugeuk reads the timing at once. Word has reached the brother's backers among the 8 that Go-Wol now serves him, and the other side has answered by playing its heir. Could you truly cut down your own blood? Cheonma asks him, and Mugeuk answers that if the man has earned the blade, he will be the one to serve it, and both of them own that kinslaying is a weight few souls alive can carry. Go-Wol kneels and swears his service and sets the guilt where it belongs, on the brother's own hubris and not on Mugeuk's conscience. Cheonma tells him flatly he still has his eyes on him, passes along that their father privately wants neither son to spill the other's blood, and warns that when the brother comes home the demon lords behind him take the field too, so the boy cannot fight them on a broken pair of wings. Not while the Cleaver Demon and the Sword Saint still circle each other as bitter rivals. Then the butcher withdraws alone and a single tear slips loose and he tells Go-Wol not to pity him, he is born far worse than this. The next day Mugeuk hands out the cold iron daggers, 8 of them, hammered from the shackles that once bound Go-Wol, and to the strategist he gives more besides, a war fan reinforced with his own heaven-spun silk. Go-Wol calls it a pair of treasures and swears his life in return, and Mugeuk tells him he gives it only because he judges him worthy, never to hold a man's loyalty as collateral. A bearded follower slips in during the handout, back far sooner than the 6 months he had promised, having spent that time shadowing someone close enough to finally grasp the real man under the husk, and he takes his own blade in hand. Then the doors open on the thing they were all bracing for. The elder brother has come home to the heavenly demon palace, walking in at Ravan Geo's side with a red-robed stranger a step behind, and the page names him at last, Eugene Geom's firstborn son Muyang Geom. He folds Mugeuk into a warm public embrace, asking how his little brother has been, and under his breath he warns him not to leave him drowning in regret over what is left of him. Not to force him down the road their father once had to walk. And in that moment the old life rises up. Mugeuk remembers the years Muyang spent feeding him horror stories, warriors butchering each other, masters losing their minds, demon lords turning on the Cheonma, painting burst meridians and crippled bodies in loving detail, all of it aimed at breaking a younger boy's nerve and steering him clear of the sword. Only now does he see it for the patient cruelty it always was, and how blind he had been to miss it. Ravan Geo leans on him to throw his strength behind his brother, arguing that blood is the only loyalty that holds and common men betray as easily as they breathe, and Cheonma's face tightens at the push. Muyang moves through the hall like a current greeting Master Gu, congratulating Ho Jiang on his rise to Lord Commander, pressing an imported powder on Yonryang So and calling her ageless. Mugeuk marks all of it, the gifts surely carried for every one of the 8, and in that one brief pass he understands exactly why his brother was always hundreds of moves ahead of him in the life he already lived and lost. Then Ravan has the 2 strangers name themselves. The younger, red-robed and spike-haired gives his name as Tiso out of Shaanxi. The old man at his shoulder calls himself the Master Mak Zhang, also of Shaanxi, and says he has waited decades for this day and is honored to stand among so many heroes of the cult. But there is no such master and disciple anywhere in Shaanxi, and Mugeuk knows it in his gut. These are the twin fiends of Yunnan, legends of disguise who can pass for merchant, monk or woman, who in his past life built a whole legacy out of robbery and slaughter and worse and never once answered for a stroke of it, until at the very last they reached into his own life and fouled it. And now the false Tiso turns to him before the whole hall and calls him out to spar. The challenge carries Mugeuk back 20 years. Before the regression he met these same 2 under these same borrowed faces at the Demon Gauntlet, and they handed him a defeat so total and so humiliating that he never even learned who they were. Now the Demon Buddha has set them down at a banquet among his own people, and Tiso circles him with poison dressed up as praise, needling his name until the barbs draw blood. The onlookers murmur at the fool baiting the young master, but Mugeuk lets it run and then springs the trap himself. Since I am lacking in wit, he says, let us speak plainly with our fists. The hall empties before the first blow. Cheonma Gu excuses himself, remarking he will not lose sleep over the young master. And Li begs off for her evening training, teasing that he has changed, and he lets her go with a smile. One by one the great names find somewhere better to be, not one of them sparing a worry for him, and only Go-Wol plants himself to bear witness and asks a single thing, that his master end it swiftly. Then sword meets fire. Tiso fights bare-fisted inside a wreath of flame, and the exchange turns brutal and red in a breath, no mercy asked and none offered. Mugeuk gives them none. He cuts down both fiends in clean, final strokes, and as the life leaves them the disguises fail, the borrowed faces sloughing away to bear the rotted, ruined things beneath, the true faces 2 monsters had gone to such lengths to bury. He stands over the corpses and turns to the Demon Buddha and asks him what ending he had been hoping for, and Ravan Geo tells him. None of this was ever a test of Mugeuk. He staged the whole banquet, the whole duel, to tear the blindfold off the brothers' eyes, to make Muyang watch with his own gaze as the boy who carries the dark demon sword their father never handed to him cuts down 2 legends without slowing, so that the firstborn would finally see the monster standing square in his road. And Mugeuk understands the cruelty of it, that the barbs aimed at him will sink far deeper into his brother than they ever could into him. So the mirror comes home. In the life that burned, Mugeuk was always the 100s of moves ahead, the elder, the heir, the ceiling the younger son could never quite touch. Now the younger son has quietly outgrown the entire cult, buried a pill-forged strength no soul at the table has ever measured, folded the overlord of the outer murim into his hand, and cut down the two ghosts that once broke him, and it is the firstborn who has walked home a step behind without knowing it. The board is full at last. The brothers Cheonma stand on the same floor with the Cleaver Demon caught in the narrow space between them, and only one of the two knows how the game ends. He knew it long before Mugeuk ever walked through the door. The blood on Mugeuk's sleeve has not yet dried when his brother finds him in the courtyard. Two bodies cool on the stones behind them, the twin fiends of Yunnan, their disguises stripped away in death. Mugeuk looks at the corpses, then at the younger brother who made them, and he smiles the way a man smiles at a card he did not expect to see played. He praises the progress. He calls it theatrics. He asks, soft and pointed, whether Mugeuk knew all along that the two honored guests were the fiends who once humiliated him in the demon gauntlet. Mugeuk says he knew nothing. Mugeuk lets the lie sit there between them, unchallenged, because a lie he can see is worth more to him than a truth he cannot. Then he turns to go. "We'll speak again come morning," he says. "Don't be late." That is the whole of it right there in 9 words. The firstborn has come home and he has already decided the game is on. Away from the courtyard over tea, Ravan Geo says the quiet part. He does not believe Yaso died of some sudden Kai outburst. He does not believe Chimpagu simply woke up one day loyal to the wrong brother. And he does not believe Mugeuk killed the Ghost Fiend alone, because no one man in these heartlands could. Mugeuk follows the thread further than Ravan expects. "Wind River," he says. "Paso Nu has been feeding his little brother strength from the outer murim, buying a foothold in the center of the world, and the proof is the Ghost Fiend's own disciple now kneeling as Paso's student." It is almost the truth. What Mugeuk cannot see is how much further past it the truth actually runs. He will not kill Mugeuk, he says so plainly, and the reason is their father. A man who murders his own brother for a throne is a man that Cheonma will never crown, so Mugeuk chooses the colder blade. He will peel the allies away one by one, every great master and lord who abandoned Mugeuk in the past, until his little brother stands on the board alone. That is the whole shape of the war before a single sword is drawn. Morning brings the throne room. Mugeuk greets their father like a returning heir, and Eugene Cheonma, who has a cold heart and gives warmth to almost no one, tells his firstborn it is good to have him back. Mugeuk watches from below and remembers with an old ache that his brother was always the first to carve a place in that heart. Mugeuk reports his triumph. He has conquered the halls of 9 demon gates, a trial above the halls of ascension, one no heir may even enter without the heavenly demon's blessing, and he claims full mastery of the sword of the skyward path. The court sings his name. The blood of dragons, someone says, truly runs thick. Mugeuk claps too. "That's amazing, Mugeuk." He says it warmly and the room chills because everyone can feel the second son crowding forward. Mugeuk turns the blade back on him and asks whether the little brother has reached that same height. And here's the thing Mugeuk does not know, the thing Mugeuk holds folded and hidden behind his teeth. He has the map the whole cult chases and no one has walked, the road to the 12-star completion that neither father nor brother has ever reached. He has quietly outgrown all of them, and he says none of it. Instead, he does something the room does not expect. He turns to the Cheonma and speaks the war out loud. "Their rivalry has been a war for succession since the day they were born," he says, "so let it be fought in fair and honorable competition out in the open before their father's eyes." He vows to carry his brother with him on the path. It is the boldest move on the board and it lands in total silence. The Cheonma gives no verdict. He looks at his sons, the firstborn who was always ahead and the secondborn who was never supposed to catch him, and he says 4 words. "You are both dismissed. No winner, no blessing, no throne promised to either of them." He turns the whole burning question back into the dark and lets his sons carry it out the door themselves. They walk out together. Mugeuk uses his brother's name for the first time and asks him, does he want their father's robe so badly? Mugeuk answers like a man reciting a law of nature. In this cult, the loser of a succession does not sulk, he dies, and the losers have never lived long enough to complain. Once bonds are tested, he says, betrayal is all that remains. Mugeuk offers him the other road. They can simply walk the other way, he says, toward the sun. And under that, in a voice that remembers a life already lived, comes the truth neither brother has grasped. In the end, it was not their bond that drove the blade into their backs. The name of that baleful dagger was Mugi Hwa, the one without equal. The blood tide still waiting out on the far horizon, untouched, unbeaten. The real enemy this whole long game is only the opening for. There is a quiet beat before the last one. Mugeuk drills in Lee until she falls into a 12-hour trance, a complete immersion into the no-self, and she comes out standing at the 8-star peak of mastery. Where you once would have died 20 times, he tells her, now you would only die twice. And privately he counts it one step closer to the day he can finally cleanse the sacred poison from her altered body. He keeps building his circle even now quietly the way he has built everything. Then at night, at the stone where he and Chunpa first crossed blades years ago, the two of them measure how far he has come. Chunpa warns that Muyang will move on the grinning jester next, that he is already courting the 8 demon lords one by one. If 5 of the 8 rally to Muyang, he says, they begin this war already bleeding. He counts it out like an abacus, 6 pillars against their 2, and begs Mugeuk to lock down one more lord firmly now. And Mugeuk tells his old master he does not plan to campaign for anyone. Chunpa nearly comes apart. With you and the sword saint, Mugeuk says, my flame knows no want. That is the arrogance and the faith of a man who already knows how this ends. So the recruitment race begins, and it comes, exactly as Chunpa predicted, straight to his own door. Muyang will worry most about the one ally Mugeuk fears most to lose, and Mugeuk knows it, and the fear haunts him. Report whatever offer my brother makes, he asks Chunpa, and I will outmatch it. Strictly business, he says, between 2 men who are no longer wide-eyed boys of 20. That night Muyang walks into Chunpa's chambers unannounced, a jar of the old man's favorite spirits in his hand, and congratulates him on passing all 9 trials of the demon gates. They drink. He asks why Chunpa chose Mugeuk. He flatters him as a warrior with the very makings of the heavenly demon, and then he lays the whole thing on the table, the most magnificent offer in the cult. A brand new rank, Supreme Demon Lord, standing above all 8, answerable to no other arm of the cult. The Southern Chopper clan tripled in size. Every restriction on his axe demons abolished. The resources of the cult poured into his halls, and last, saved for last, the crown of the whole pitch. Exclusive personal access to the heavenly demon archives, the great wisdom of every ancestor laid bare for his eyes whenever he desires. Master Gu, Chunpa says nothing, and that is where Season 1 leaves off, not on a clash, on a silence. The board is set and not one piece has moved. The underdog who came back from the end of everything has secretly outgrown the entire cult, forged his own circle from the men who once broke him, and set every stone in its place with a foreknowledge no one else in the world holds. And across from him stands his mirror, the brother who was always half a step ahead, home at last to take the throne, with the loyalty of Mugeuk's own master hanging on a single held breath. The war is declared. It has not yet been fought, and the man who came back to unmake the future has done the one thing no regressor is ever promised he can do. He got to move first, and he set the board exactly the way he wanted it.